Hello friends and everyone, welcome back to Netcode-Hub channel. I am Frederick and I'm happy to have you here today. I have received a couple of comments from the inventory management system that I built. And my community members are saying some codes are not clear or they are invisible. And you know, for the love that I have for the community, I have to redo the project again. So I'm not going to code the project from start to finish again, but rather I'm going to do video on the project that we have done from start to finish. This video cuts across from beginner to advanced, so everyone can benefit from this video. And the source code is also available, so if you want to grab the source code to skip the typing, then you can do that. Check the video description. I also do offer coaching or mentoring to people who want to improve in their .NET skills, talking about Blazor, Web API Service, and etc. So if you're interested, check the video description. I have an email that you can write to me through it. If you haven't also subscribed to this channel, then kindly do that because this channel has a lot of informative content on .NET for you. Alright, like this video as well if you find this video helpful. So without wasting much time, let's start. I have the project open already, and that is a demo Blazor interactive server inventory management system. This means that we are going to build a system using .NET 8 web app with interactive render. Is it interactive server render mode? That is the right mode. Alright, to foster separation of concerns, we would like to, you and I decided to create this project using clean architecture. So maybe if you don't know what clean architecture is, I have a video done on that, and maybe I'll put the link in this video description. So if you want to know more about clean architecture, then check the video description. I'll put it in there. Or you can also check the playlist. It has that video in there. But in the long run, we're going to be using this clean architecture in this project. Now, clean architecture has 4 phases or layers. That is a Blazor. And this Blazor is going to be the presentation layer. We have the domain, the infrastructure, and the application layer. So in that, each layer has its own code that you need to put it in there. And that is what you're going to have a look. So if you are a beginner to this video, then launch a Visual Studio 2022 or higher, and now create blank solution, and I believe you know how to do that. After creating this blank solution, we want to add these 4 projects. The first one is going to be the application, and that is the C# class library. Second one is going to be domain, and that is the domain that you see. Yes. The third one is going to be another C# class library, and that is the infrastructure. That is it. The fourth one, that is the last one, it is a presentation layer. So in this, I did not name it as presentation, but rather I name it as web UI, because that is a presentation layer. Good. Now you know, let's see the dependencies. Now from application, the domain here is going to be the core, that is the basis, the foundation. Now the application layer is going to consume the domain. Because in the application layer, that is where we're going to have our DTOs and our services in there. Aside from that, we're going to have the infrastructure. The infrastructure is going to consume the application because the application contains a contract or our interfaces, and that is where we need to inherit from to create a repo. Now the repo here is going to be the infrastructure because that's going to have access, the core access to database. And in that, you have something like the data access layer, and that's going to be our DB context, which has direct access to our database. So that's going to be in the infrastructure. And now the main boss or the overall boss, that is the web UI, is going to be the presentation, which is going to consume only the application layer. Because the application layer is going to contain the DTOs, so we can get that, okay, in the web UI, and that's the presentation layer. And also, it's going to register service from the infrastructure in order to perform migration. So you're going to add that service. And after adding that service, that is all. We're not going to interact with the infrastructure directly again. We're going to interact with the infrastructure through the application layer to the domain and to the infrastructure. So that's the dependency that we need to do. So in order to inherit or add the dependencies, we can actually manually add it, or you can add it in the code section. To manually add it, this is what you need to do. So open the project for each, and our first application layer is going to consume domain. So we'll click on dependencies, then go to add project reference, and I'll add the domain. Click on OK, and that is it. Now infrastructure is going to also consume the application. So we'll click on dependencies, then add project references, application, OK, and that is it. Web UI is going to consume application layer, and it's going to register a service in the infrastructure. So you need to add this to your project. Right click on dependencies, add project references, then select the two, click on OK, and that is all. So these are dependencies that I need to do. So if you're done with this, it means we have finished, or we've completed the first stage. Well done. So if you are a beginner and do not know what we're going to do, although you've heard that we're going to build inventory management system, but you don't have any idea on what the system is going to look like, then let me explain with some few seconds, or actually a minute. Okay, let me take that to explain. Now, you know, inventory management system is very broad, and we cannot do everything here. But in this video, I have some features that we're going to integrate in our inventory management system. You know, the core basic of inventory management system is to keep track, to keep record of product in warehouse. Is it warehouse? In shop. Let's say warehouse. Now on this, aside from performing CRUD operation, we are also going to track activities. Okay, so all users, what they do, we're going to keep track of them, and now keep the records in the table. These records are going to be visible for the admin to see what goes on in the system. Aside from that, this system is going to have three policies. You're going to have the user, you're going to have the administrator, and now the manager. Now the user is not actually a person. This user here, it is a shop. Now you know our system here is going to be used to manage an warehouse. Warehouse is going to supply small shops products. These small shops are the users. Now these small shops can request or can order items from the warehouse. This warehouse can also deliver the item, or can deliver the item to this warehouse. Now a user can request or can make an order, can cancel the order. The same thing applies to the administration, can also cancel the order or can edit or update the order. Now, you know, when orders are made, there must be a real-time communication between the client and now the admin. Alright, that's the shop, and now the warehouse, that is the admin or the managers. Now this can be done using SignalR, and yes, of course, we are integrating that in here. Aside from that, we are also having our cookie authentication system. That's a customized one to suit our project. We are using policy-based authorization with claims as well, and other features. I'm not sure I'll be able to explain all the features, the nitty-gritty of everything that we're going to be doing. But trust me, till you watch from start to finish, you're going to grab the concept of this, and you're going to love it. Trust me. So if you are new to this, I believe this is giving you actually a gist of it, isn't it? Good. Now let's continue. So don't be scared on what you see in here. We're going to do them step by step, okay? So don't worry. I can see that here, once you create your blank solution, you add a project, you have empty project, isn't it? Yes, I could see. Now from that, this is what you need to do. You know, we have to create our domain. Now let's first work with authentication system, because authentication gives access to the system, okay? So that's the first thing that we need to build to protect the system before we add other features as well. I said earlier that we are using cookie-based authentication. That's a customized one, but it looks similar to what we have in the using individual account, okay? From the default one, that is that comes in with the, I think, individual account feature when creating the project. We're going to do something similar to that, okay? I copied some of the code from that, so not everything that I can explain in here. I have done cookie authentication, also a video on that. So if you want to have details of it, then check the video description. I'll make sure I put it in there, or check the playlist and you're going to find it in there. What we're going to do here is we're going to integrate all the video that I've been doing. We're going to integrate them together. Okay, so I'm not going to explain everything from top to down. No, I'm going to do that. This is a project because it's a lot, and I don't want to spend much time in that. So we just hint on the important aspect that you need to know, and now we can go on. Okay, so I'm going to link the various videos that do explain each detailedly in the video description, so you can actually grab that. But trust me, I know you're going to grab it whilst I do. And you know, we're going to work with the authentication system. So with authentication system, there are some default model that come with the quick authentication system. Example is the identity user and the identity role. Now, if you want to add extra properties, that is where we need to extend identity user. Now, we're going to add an extra property to this because for user to register, there are some few properties that we need to take aside from getting the username, the phone number, and etc. from the default identity user. So in that, we're going to also be using this identity user in the UI. And since the UI cannot consume directly the domain and can consume the application layer, I decide to extend this to the application layer so it can be used in the infrastructure and at the same time can also be used in the web UI. Isn't that a good idea? Or do you have any idea, you have any clue how to actually center this so it can be used in infrastructure and now the web UI? Then you can go ahead and integrate that as well. So from application layer, you can see I created a folder. So create a folder name as extension, or well, give it any name of your choice. In that, have another folder as identity, and inside identity I have the application user. There's a class that I created, and now here I'm just adding only name. Identity user contains email, username, phone number. Yes, if you want to actually check it well, you can just right click on this. Then let's go to properties. Alright, so wait, before I introduce you to this identity user, what you do here first is we need to install packages to the various projects, okay? Because when you type in identity user here without installing the package, it's not going to work. Okay, so let's first talk about packages required for this project. So let's install the various packages to each of the project. Now let's go to the application project. That is where we are starting from. In that, we're going to use the mediator, so we need to install the package in here, and we need to install dependencies.injection. That's dependency injection.abstraction, and this is what we're going to be using for creating our service container. Now this is for mediator, and that's the CQRS. Aside from that, we need this identity store so we can extend the application user class. Now we're going to be using ID of guild, and now with guild we want to check for validation. So I created a simple package that we can use as an attribute to check if guild is empty. So we're going to be using this package as well, and that's a version of 1.0.0. So install these 4 packages to the application. When you're done, go to the domain, and unless do you have any package? No, for domain we do not have any package, so we're going to skip that. Let's go to the infrastructure, and at the infrastructure we're going to be using this mapstar, and that is a mapping, or that's an auto mapper. It looks like an auto mapper. It's a mapping package, so we can use to map our models, our DTOs to our models, and vice versa. Aside from that, we need a same mediator because we're going to be creating our command query, and our handler is going to be in the infrastructure, so we have to install this package as well. We need EF core, the identity framework core, identity, so we can have access to all the sign-in manager, the role manager, the identity manager, and a lot. We need the same thing applies to this, so we can have access to the sign-in manager. Actually, this is coming from the sign-in manager. No, sign-in manager is coming from this. Yeah, so we need to install this package too. Then SQL Server is the almighty for our database. So if you want to use an SQLite, then you can change it to SQLite or any other database as well. You can use it in there. Alright, aside from that, let's see the last one, that is a web UI as a presentation layer. And here we need a lot of packages. Alright, you need a mapstar in here for mapping models. We need SignalR for real-time update. We need EF-core.tools for migration. Aside from that, we need Blazor for Blazor tree. We need also breadcrumb for our navigations. We need data grid from the Netcode packages. We need file upload for to upload file. We need modal, toast, validation, so we can have access to progressive validation. We validate whilst we type. We need local storage service, so I have a package local storage service. We also need that. Then we have the UI template that I have created, and that is a bridge. So it's just a normal template that I integrated or made a package out of it. So template UI.template.bridge. So we need to install this package as well. And aside from that, we will be needing this syncfusion.blazor.chat for chat. We need .grid to have a grid table. Then we need navigation, so we can have paginations and etc. All right. Then we need themes, so we can have our features here worked. All right. So these are the packages that we need. So pause the video and try to install the packages allocated for each of the project. Okay. So now that you are done, let's close this, and now let's move on to our extension model, and that's identity user. Let's start creating our user in here. So as I said earlier on, the identity user has default properties such as the username, the email, the phone number, and etc. So if you want to check, right click on this. When you go to pick definition, you can have access to the properties down here. Then we are adding just name to it. So from this identity user, if I right click and go to pick definition in here, that is going to have all the properties here. So you can see we have the ID, we have username, normalized username, email, normalized email, password, email confirmed, security stamp, and a lot. Okay, so in that, all that we need here, it is a username, maybe the email, the full name, the password, and confirmed password. Maybe we're going to add a row to it. Well, so these are the basic properties that we need for an identity user. Okay, so we add this. Now that we are done, we need to create our AppDB context class. So in order to create that, you go to the infrastructure, and I will create a folder known as data access, and in that you're going to create an AppDB context class in here. Now AppDB context class, we are inheriting from this identity DB context, which has access to the default identity models. So in that, we specify our application user class that we create as an extension to the identity user, then you pass it on in here. Okay. Now for now, with this, we're going to forget about this. We're going to come back to this later on. Okay. What we're interested here, it is to create a AppDB context and now inherit from this identity context, whilst you specify the extension class for this identity user. All right. So now that we are done with this, we need to create a connection string and also register this connection and then perform database migration. Okay. So let's register the connection string first. First of all, we need to create it. So in order for us to create it, we go to our web UI, go to the app setting.json, and then here we need to specify our database connection string. So in the connection string, since I'm using my local one, I need to specify this local. I can use dot. This is my database name. This is the trusted connection set to true, and our trust server certificate also set this to true. Okay. So once you are done, what we're going to do here is we need to go to the program.cs file or the service container to create or register this. But I need to create dependency injection, and that's coming from this infrastructure. So create a folder known as dependency injection, and I add a class in that service container. And in that, we're going to start. This is the return type of iService collection. That is the name that I'm giving to. And I'm going to specify this explicit specification. We're going to specify this iService collection passing with a service. And aside from that, we're going to be using this configuration. Okay, and in that, you can see we are adding DB context class. So we're going to specify use SQL Server, then get connection string, and I will specify the lifetime as scope. Aside from that, we're going to add authentication service. We add a cookie service, and we need to add the sign-in manager and the add default token provider, because when we click on sign in, a token must be generated and now get inserted into the cookie of the browser. Then we're going to add our authorization. So this is going to be our policy. So we're going to have two policies here. The first policy is administration policy, and on this administration policy, when a user is joined to administration policy, this user must be authenticated first. That's the first thing. The second one is the user must have either an admin or manager role. So if the user has a manager role, he's still in the administration policy. If the user is an admin, it's still in the administration policy. we add a next policy, that's the user policy, and now this person here is supposed to be authenticated, and aside from that, he is required to be in the user role. Aside from that, we need to add this cascading auth state service, because nowadays we don't need from the Entity Framework Core 8 or from the ASP.NET Core 8, which was introduced. Now we have to use a service instead of using this cascading authentication state component. Now we need to use this, and then it's going to take care of that. Okay, so that's an upgrade for that, and make sure you add this as well. Good. Now the rest, we're going to come back to this later on, because that is where we need to use the mediator. So we're going to come back to this. For now, we're going to maintain what we have. So you're doing up to this. Forget about 39 to 41. We're going to come back to this. Alright, so now that we are done with this, what we're going to do here is we're going to restart this service in the UI. So let's do that. We go to the UI. And now from the UI, go to the program.cs file. And in here you can see we are adding this infrastructure service. You specify the configuration. Aside from that, we are adding application service. But with this, forget about this. You're going to come back to this later on. And now forget about anyone that you see in here. Okay, forget about this. We're going to come back to this when it's needful. Okay, so this is the only thing that you need to do. After that, build the project and right click on the project and click on build project. After you've built it, what we're going to do here is going to perform database migration. In order to do that, you make sure you set this as a startup project. So right click on the web UI, go to set as startup project. Now come to package manager console, and now from the web UI default project, click on this and I'll set infrastructure and I'll add migration. So give it a name, any name at all that you want. After the file being created, you're gonna have a file created as any of these from this infrastructure migration file. You're gonna have something like this. Okay, so after this, what we're going to do here is we're going to update the database. So you click on update database to update this table. Okay, so when we are done, it means that table has been created, that identity table has been created perfectly for us. So now that this is done, what we're going to do next is you're going to create our repo for the authentication system. Okay, and in that, we're going to create a contract in the application layer. Then our repo is going to be in the infrastructure. So let's create an interface in the application layer. But before we do that, we need to create our DTOs. DTOs are used to transfer data from the database to the user, vice versa. Okay, so with that, we need to create our request and our response DTO. When we talk about request, that is what the user is. It's a command the user is sending to the database. Response is what is coming from the database to the user. Okay, so we have three types of DTO. That's a request and a response DTO. So in that, when you go to the DTOs, I have them created request and a response. So you create two folders and I name them, as you can see from here, request and a response. Now in the request, since you're going to be creating account, let's see from the identity folder, we're going to be creating create user request. So if you want to, if you're creating user, we need name, we need confirm password, and now the policy name. You need to specify the policy name here. Now, which policy are you talking about? Now, we see that policy that we're talking about here is it is a rule. So this rule could be a claim. That is a claim, right? Now, this claim could be, let's say, admin. It could be manager. It could be user, because you specify three roles here. So maybe you can change the policy here to role. Yeah. So this can be clear. Well, you can leave it like this. Okay, so we have policy and you need to specify that. Now we are also inheriting from this login user request DTO. The reason why I did that here is I am grouping common properties into one, so we can inherit from that. If I go to login request DTO and I pick definition, you can see we are having email address and we are having password. And in that, you have this regular expression. So here for the email, it's going to make sure that it is email has this @ symbol in it, and now from the regular expression for this password, so it's going to make sure that it includes uppercase, lowercase, special characters, and our numbers. Okay, so that is the special character that you need to specify in there. Good. Now we are done with that. So we have email and password attached to this, and we can click on create. Yes. Aside from that, now we have this login request, and that is what we had to look. So it has the same thing as specified in there. Okay. Now let's see The next one that we're talking about here, it is a policy. So user must choose policy, and under policy we have this admin policy, manager policy, and then we have this user policy. Okay, so admin policy, or it could be an admin role, it could be manager role, user role. So anyone that you want to do, well, you can actually use that, because here we're going to check when creating the account. We're going to check from what the user chose. If it corresponds with any of this, then we're going to add a specific claim, so you can change this to suit what you want. And also we have these role claims in here. Now these are the roles that we have. We have an admin, we have the manager, we have the user. So we can actually skip this and use one, or you can maintain these two. Okay, when we get to where we're going to use this, I'll tell you. So now we have these static strings here waiting for us, which are the policies that we need and the roles that we need in our application. So aside from doing that, we're going to be creating our DTO, not a DTO, our interface. Yes. So in our interface, you can see create a folder in here, and I'll name it as, I can't find mine, where is it? Yeah, that is it. It's an interface which is coming from that application. Now this interface, we have the identity folder in here. So create another folder, name it as identity. Then create an account, iAccount in here. That's an interface of account. Now we have this iAccount here. So before we dive right into this, I have this service response here, and this is coming from the response in here. So when you go to the response from the folder, I have this service response. Now this service response has in flag and our message. So in order to handle a response from the server, you must have a model to do that, or you must find a suitable way to do that. And now in this project, I am defining this as my suitable way of retrieving or receiving a response from the server. So you can also customize to suit your own based on what you want to do. All right, but for me, I'm going to maintain this, and it has only two properties in here, flag and now the message. In case you have any error, that's going to have false. In case we have any message at all to return, we're going to pass the message in here. And this is very simple, and it's a record class. It's a record class. It's a record, not a class. It's a record. Okay. So that's great. Now let's go back to the interface. And at the interface, we have this login async, we have create user, we have get user with claim. So we're going to return all users with claim. We have update user. Now this, we have set up async. We have this update user async. We have save activity. Then we have get activity async. Now let me take you through one after the other. For login and register or create account, it's clear to you, isn't it? You're going to give access to the system by logging in from to retrieve your already created account. Now create account is the initial stage of creating an account. And these are the respective modules that we need, or properties that we need you to fill before we can allow you or give you the access. Now get users with claims, that is where we want to return all users. Admin can manage users. So admin can change user role, can change let's only user role. Okay, so admin can change user role, also can manage user claims. So in order to do that, you want to get all users with the claim. Now role is also part of the claim, so you want to retrieve every right that the user has and then display it for the admin to see, so that the admin can make changes. So that's the reason why I am getting this. Now in that, I have this model I created, and this model is coming from the response. So let's see, if I pick the definition for this, I'm getting it from the base claim DTO, and this is also inheriting from this base user claim DTO, and it's having this extra property that we want to take. That's an email. So let's check it out from here. From this solution, you go to the response identity, and I can see we have this get users with claims, and now you have this base user claim DTO, and that is this. Now in that, you want to return user ID, user name, role name, manager user. Manager user or manage user. Okay, that's manage user. You can see all these Boolean expressions. So we're going to return, do you have a role, or do you have the right to create, true or false? Do you have the right to update? The same to delete, the same thing to read. And now do you have the right to manage user? Okay, so all these are Boolean, and we're going to specify either true or false based on what the admin will assign to this specific user. Okay, so we have this, and that is all. So now when you go back to the interface, So you have IEnumerable, and this IEnumerable is you're going to return the list of users in there which will not be editable. And also we have this setup async. We can perform database seeding as soon as the page starts, okay? And one thing I'm also doing here is I don't want to use the database seeding. Now I want to start this or set up the table or database by creating a default admin account initially when the app starts. Okay, so I'm going to call an endpoint to actually handle that. So you can decide to use database seeding to do that, and I can also decide to use this. See, do what suits you, and this is what I want. So this is what I am doing. Good. Now you can also use database seeding, and I'll get rid of the line 13, and I believe you can switch to that if you want. And aside from that, you have this update user async. So this admin is going to update. Now if admin get the whole user with claims, admin is going to update the user. So in this, going to have this update user claim, and this is going to come from the request. So let's check it out. From this, we have this identity. There's a request. We have this in here, and our change user claim request is the one that you see in here. So it is also coming from this base DTO. So it is also inheriting from the same properties that we went through already. That is the name. We have the email. We have the Boolean expression for can the user create, can the user read, can the user write, and a lot. Okay, so the same thing as we saw earlier on. Okay, and that is what we are doing. You know, I can see, oh, this request, what I did, request. All right, so and you can see we are not checking the errors, right? We want to check the function, isn't it? All right, so now we have this, and let's get back to the interface. Yes, and now here we are going to save activity, and also we're going to get activities. What are the activities that you're going to do? If you perform CRUD operation, that is actually it is create, update, or delete. You want to keep the user who did that operation, okay? And also, you know, this system is going to be used by a manager and an admin, and it is only the manager and an admin's right to perform the CRUD. That is a create, read, and update, okay? User, which is a shop, can only read but cannot do that. So you want to check if an operation that has been occurred, who did that? Is it the admin or is it manager? You want to check that. So that's the reason why we are getting this. So when you check this, you can see we have this activity tracker module that we created, and this activity tracker repository, we haven't created this module yet. We are yet to create that. Okay. So for these two lines, we want to maintain them here, and now when we are done, you're going to come back to this. So now that we are done with our interface, we need to create our repo. So in the infrastructure, we're going to create a folder in that, and I name it as repository. Inside that, we have our account. So that's an account which is going to inherit from this account. And now in that, we are injecting this user manager. We're passing this application user, sign-in manager, and also we need the application, the AppDB context. Then that's the interface that we have inherited from. You know, we have to update the interface. So we have to implement the interface or the method in the interface that we specified. So we're doing that. Okay, so let's first talk about the create user async. We're checking if the user is there. If the user is not null, it means user already exists. In case it is there, create new instance of this application user, and now we're going to check if we're going to create this user. Okay, now the response that comes in, you're going to check it and see if it was successful. Okay, so we call this check results, and if I show you the check result, you know, we are checking this. We're checking if the results it succeeded, that is true, then return true. But in case it isn't, return the message, okay, and return false. So that's really what we're doing in there. So here we are checking if the response here is false, then we want to return the result, because the results here is going to come in with the Boolean expression, also the message, okay? Else we want to create user claims. So let's see the method. We want to create claims for this user. And now in that, if I check this is a method, we pass in this module, that's the current module coming in. We check it up from here. We check if it is not now from the policy that we see in here, then we want to create list of policy or list of claims for this. So these are the claims that we need. So we need the name, the create, update, delete. So we need all policies. We set them to true when it is an admin policy. And if it is manager, we do the same. So here you can see manage user is set to false, delete is false. So manager cannot delete, cannot manage user. And now user at all cannot do anything except only read. So we also do that for the user. After that, we're going to create the response in there. So once you have this checked, we are going to add what we specified here to the claims. And now in the claims, you're going to add the person's ID. And that's what we are doing on this line. That's at line 85. After that, we're going to check if it is true, then we're going to return the user created. But in case it is false, then return the message as well. Okay, so that is a way to perform the user creation. So here, this is going to go through and now the user is going to get created. Now let's go to the login. And I believe for the login, you know what we're going to do. So I need not to go through. What do you think? Okay. Now you can see from the login is in this what we are doing. We want to check and find out if the email exists. Aside from that, we want to verify the password. Now if it exists, we want to sign in. Now in sign in, we want to now return this. So that is true. And if something happens, we want to return this because it is very simple. Now password sign in is going to get collection of the claims that we saved and are returned to the UI. So we can have access to the claims when using this endpoint, password sign-in. And that is all. So this is find email. We're going to get from the user manager and now find the email we're going to pass on here. Find user by ID, get the ID in here. The reason why I extracted this here is we're going to be using this often. So don't repeat yourself. It's one of the principles in coding. And so we try not to repeat this line a couple of times, rather set up straight so we can be using it often. And that is exactly what we are doing. Check results. You could be checking results all the time. So have a simple method to check results. Maybe you can also have a so simple method to check it. This mine. You can modify this to suit what you want. And also there's a get user claims. We've spoken about this already, so we need not. Now have a look. Now you can see we have this method get user claims async. So when user is created, we're going to assign claims to that user. And here we are retrieving the claims. So first of all, we create an instance of this model. Now we get all the users in here. Now we're going to loop through this all users. Now for each user, you want to find the user ID. So you want to find the user details from this as a current user. We want to also get the user claim. So we have user details, user claims. Then what we're going to do here is we're going to check if any. We're going to create a new list, new model or new item from this list and add it to the list. So we specify the username, the email, the row, up to the read. And all this, you're going to convert this into Boolean. So you can see that's why we're using this convert to Boolean. We pass in the claim tag in here. After that, we return this to a list. Now you want to set up async. This is what we're doing. So as I explained earlier on, we want to create an account. You want to create an admin account as soon as the app starts. So in that, you're going to specify a dummy one. This is going to be a trial. So instead of you perform database seeding with this, I decide to call this method anytime or when the page runs up. And this is going to call once, or this is going to execute once at a time. The next one that is make a call is going to check and to find out that the row exists, and it's going to skip that. Okay, so there won't be any multiple or duplicate records in it. It's going to be one. So we have a policy specified, and this as a dummy one for testing purpose. There's an administrator, an admin, and that is all. We can go ahead. You can see we are calling this create account async, and that's the method that we are calling here and passing in the model as a DTO. Now update async. What are we doing? We want to find out the user. If it exists, we want to get the old user claims from here. So from the claims, you get it from this. And now we populate a new claim. After that, we want to remove the old one and now add a new one because it is very simple, right? We check the outcome of the result. Was it successful? If yes, return. If not, then return the response or the outcome from the check response. But in case it is, return user updated. And now save activity. This is where we are going to. Okay, I said we are not talking about this now. We come back to this later on, right? So let's skip this. Don't worry. I could see that if you have the implementation, but maybe you can type this and I'll wait for explanation. But you see what we're doing here is you can see we are adding to the database, and that is all. You see we are adding, and now here we are using this adapt. So that is the auto mapper. So we are mapping it to this. So we are mapping from DTO. This and the DTO. we are mapping it from the DTO to the model itself by using this adapt, which is coming from the master. Yes, and now here too we get there, so we get all the list and now return. Okay, so this is what you're doing. We want to get the ID. So if you check it, you see you have this activity tracker response model, and now with this model, if I open this pick definition, we have it's coming from this base activity tracker, which has all the properties, all the claims set plus the username. So we want to get the username, and we can get the username from find user by ID, and I can just get the name from it. So we are going to create an instance of this, then we're going to add it. So we're going to loop through the data that we have from here, then we're going to add the username, then add it to the list. Okay, so with each activity that we have in here, we're going to assign the username to the current user, which is being found from the user manager, and now we want to extract only the name and assign it in here, and that is our return data. So this is going to return the list of activities which have been performed, which comprise of the username and the action performed. Okay, and was it successful? I'll take you through that from the model or the response or the request DTO when we get there. For now, you want to focus on the authentication. Okay, so now that we are done in here, what is the next thing to do? We need to register this in the settings. So let's go to the infrastructure. You know, we created dependency injection, right? So we need to register that in here, and that is that's what we are doing here. Where is it? So there's it. You see account and account. Okay, now that with this, we need to create service for that. Let's create service for this account. So in order for us to create a service, this service should be created in the application layer, because that's what's going to be consumed by the UI. So you want the UI to interact with the service while the service interacts with the repo. Okay, so let's see, and let's minimize this. Now let's go to the application layer. We need to create a folder called service, then identity. In that we have this iAccount service, and now we have this definition. So in that, you see, you're having the same thing that we had in the interface, and now so you can just copy and paste it in here. Okay, and in case you have any extra interface that you want to implement, you can also add it down here. Now let's implement it. So that to implement, we are calling this model, the endpoint from this. So you see, we are injecting the interface in here, and now we can straight ahead link it up, as you can see from it. So you can see this is just a line of code, and now have this done. Okay, so here we are having, now with the group activities, we want to group it. Okay, so group it by date. So that is a grouping. We are using this iGrouping interface, and now we want to group this. So we are grouping the activities from here by date, so we can use it in the Blazor tree. Okay, so this is what you need to do. And once you're done, we need to create dependency injection for this service too, so we can register. So create a folder known as dependency injection, and I create a service container, and I in that add the service in here, and that is all. After that, let's go to the UI and I'll add this application service. So go to the UI from here, UI program.cs, and I'll add a service, and there's a service that you need to add. Remember that we added one in here, and there's a time for us to add it. So there's it, application service. Okay, good. So now that we are done, what's the next thing to do? We need to create our authentication state provider or identity validating or state provider. I just copied it straight ahead from the default one when you create an account and choose the account system of individual account. You can see we have this identity validating state. Now this revalidate the account based on the specific time that you're going to specify. That is the function of this. Okay, so let's go to the UI. So let's go to the UI, and in that, from the component folder, we're going to create, you can see we have pages folder here, and in that, let's see, we're going to create another folder known as identity, and inside identity, we have this at the authentication page, we have this Import.razor, but before that, this is what you want to do. So these are the component. This identity validating state is not found here. Yes, can be found in the layout. So identity, so create a folder in the layout and name it as identity, and in that you're going to have this identity validating or state. So you can see from here we're going to specify the time that you want to check, validate the user at the time, and in that you see we are using, where is it? Okay, so So you can see from here that we are passing in the authentication state. Now, as soon as we log in this authentication state, we can extract our claims from this. That's our principal. Now, the principal comprises of the name and the claims as well. So as soon as we log in, we have everything from this auth state provider, and now we can verify the user at the time specified in here. Okay, so this is what we are doing. I actually copy this from the, as I said, default one. So I have separate videos to explain this. If you want to grab that, check the video description. I also put it in there. But this class or this file is going to validate the user based on the time span specified down here. Okay, and now before this work, it can make sure that the user has been logged in. Okay, and now the claims have been retrieved or received in there, and that is where this can take it from there. Good. So now that we have this, a very simple one, and you need to register this in the program.cs, but not the program. Yes. Okay, yeah, that's the program because you are in the web UI. So you go to the program.cs file from the web UI and I register that in here, and that's exactly what we are doing. And we are creating an instance from this auth state provider, and that is for the identity validating state provider that we created. Okay, so aside from doing this, what we're going to do next here, it is to check your route. So when you go to your route, we have to make here as an authorized route view. Instead of the route view, you're going to add this authorized route view. So we are not adding cascading auth state provider again because we've added that as a service, and in that, if you are not authorized, you want to redirect to login. So we're going to create this component and name it as redirect to login. And now this is going to work when you are not logged in and you want to access a protected content. Then this Razor component is going to get executed. And that is a component in here. So redirect to login. Now this is what you're doing. When the page initializes, you want to redirect to the login page, and that is all that we are doing. Okay, so aside from doing this, what is the next thing that we can do? We are going to create our login component. So in that, from the identity, that is from the pages. Let me minimize it a little bit. So when you go to pages, now you go to content, and in that, let's find out the identity folder here. Now in the identity folder, we have this login component in here. We have a folder known as administration. It's a folder, and aside from that, we have this component. Okay, so that's a login component. Now that's what we are doing. It is just two input text components. That is what we are using. We have login email, then we have password. So before you log in, you need to provide your email and password, isn't it? And it's an edit form, and that's what we are doing. So this is the full code of it. Yes. And in that, we are checking in case you have any error you want to display down in here. We have a button, that's the validation summary. In case you have any issue, get it displayed. And aside from that, we have button down here that's going to submit button. Where is it? There's a button, it says success, and the type here is submit. Now when you come here, you can see we have the string message to display anything. Now I added this busy here is because here we are using the static rendering, so we are not using interactive. So with static rendering, it supports form by specifying the form name in here. Okay, and the method as post. Now when we click on this, this page is not active, so we cannot change the button, hide the button, and now do any other stuff. So the button is still going to be visible. So what I'm going to do here is, if you click on this first button, the first button here, we're going to check if it's busy is true, then continue with this. So if this is true, then return. So if it gets to this side, it means this busy here, it is false, right? So initially the busy is set to false. So when you click on the first time, busy is false. So it's going to allow you to get account or login async, call this account. Now as soon as it's passed on to this session, we set the busy, we override this busy here and set it to true. So when you click on the next time, this is true, and it's going to return until this is finished. So if this is finished and now you have the results, if it is false, if this is false, that is where you want to set this busy here to false, and you can click on it again. Else we want to navigate to this. Okay, so we want to navigate it to this home page and now refresh this. Okay, and here we have our auth state. So we want to check if the user has already authenticated and want to re-log in. We want to redirect the person to the home page, and that is all. That's why we are using this on initialize, and then we can get this authentication state from this. Remember that when using the identity validation state provider, I made mention of this auth state provider. Now this auth state, as soon as the user logs in, this auth state has access to the principal, so we can have access to the claim details. So we can extract from here and check if user is authenticated or not, and that is exactly what we are doing. So you can see that we are saying if state.user.identity.is authenticated is equal to true, that is where we want to navigate to this. In case it is false, then return. It means the person isn't logged in already, so please allow the person to log in. You can see that. So this is what we are doing in here. Very simple one. Okay, so that's the login. So as soon as you run the page, you run the app, you're going to first see the login working in there. But the next thing is, whilst you're doing this, we need to configure this. You know, when the app starts, we don't want to bump into our home page before we come back to login. So you must have a component that's going to check if this person logged in or not. Is this person registered, authenticated? If yes, then please allow the person to go to login. Else, send the person to, if this person is authenticated, then please allow the person to go to the home page. Else, send the person to the login page. Okay, so in order to do that, I created a component, and that component was route as what home page. This is a route for this page. Now that's the name that I give as authentication page, and you can see that's the home page. In that, I can get the same thing from here, and I'm checking if it is true, then please go to this page. If it is false, then navigate it to login. Okay, so anytime the page runs up, this is going to be the landing page, and it's going to authenticate the person before giving the person access to any of the components. Update is clear. Yes, and now when the page runs for the first time, that's why we are calling this service. This service is setting up the system by creating a default account user account for the admin. Oh, that is it. So you can see that the page runs up, and now we are in here. So we are in account/login, and that is the page. So we have a login, beautiful design, very nice, simple one. Okay, I know you can do better than this, but for now, this is mine. You can also create yours. Yeah, that's it. Okay, right. So you have it in here, and now we can specify username and password and click on login to get this logged in. Good. All right. So now that we are done with our login system, the next thing we're going to do here is we're going to implement the authentication tracker. Is it the authentication or the activity tracker? Yes, activity tracker. So maybe you'll be asking yourself, what is tracker going to do? I've made some explanation there already, but let me actually brush through it again. This tracker is there to keep track of all the activities performed by the administration. If I say administration, I'm talking about the admin itself and the manager, because both are in the same policy. All right. So if any perform an activity, it's going to be recorded in database, and it's only the admin or who has the right as the managed user can see that details. And we're going to be using this Blazor tree view grid. Is it tree view grid or tree view only? Yeah, that is a tree view. You're going to use that component to render that in a tree view form. That's great. Okay, so we have that in session. All right, so now that this is clear to you, what we're going to do here is let's go to the interface, and from this interface, from the application layer, and you go to the identity layer, you can see that we added two interfaces here, and there's a time. But before that, let's go to the component, not the DTOs first. Now from the domain, when you go to the entities, we have this activity tracker. So add a folder known as entities, and now activity tracker folder. Now there is a tracker itself. Okay, it has an ID, date, title, description, operation state here, and now user ID. So get the user ID from here, and now the operation state, is it successful or not. There's a description, there's the title of the operation, and now there's the date that has been, the date this was picked up or called. Good. Now there's an ID for database saving purpose. Good. So now that we have this, we need to create DTO for this, and since we're going to get it from the user and now save it, it's going to be a response, not a response, rather what? Request. Good. So now with that request, let's go to the application, DTOs, identity, and in that we can find our, do we have tracker in there? So we go to our, these are DTOs, we go to our request, and in there we have activity tracker folder. So we create a class known as activity tracker request DTO, and now this is coming from the base activity tracker. So let's go to the response. We have the same activity tracker, and now in that, let's find out the base activity first. So the base here has in the date, and now we are setting the date to current date. We have the title, description, the same thing as we had in the model. Okay, that's the entity. Now let's check out the activity tracker itself, the response. So here we are adding an extra property known as the username, because we don't want to display the user ID for the admin, because the user ID is in guild and the admin may not understand the guild. Okay, because the admin may not know who has the guild ID. or it belongs to, or which user has that specific ID. So what we're going to do here is we need to find the username and now add it. Okay, so we have the user ID and we have the username, and now we can go ahead and display the user name in there. So we actually have this DTOs. What we're going to do here is we go to our interface, and in our interface, you know, we had that already. We explained that already. So we have this activity tracker request DTO. We're going to save it, and now we're going to get a list in here. So let's see, from the interface, from the infrastructure, we go to our repo. For infrastructure, we have it in here, and that's our repo, and we have an account. And inside this account, let me minimize this because we are done going through this ones. Okay, so last but one. Okay, the last. Okay, so save activity tracker. You can see we are converting this mapping to the model, and now we want to save it. Aside from that, get activities, we want to get the whole list from here. We want to adapt it as a list and our return. So that's all that we are doing. And in that, in each activity, we want to, you know, in each activity, we have no user name. Now, with the response DTO, it has username. So you want to find the username from this, find user by ID, and I'm going to extract the specific property as name and our return. And that's all that we are doing in here. Okay, so aside from that, you know, we need to create a service. And I know for the service, it's very, very easy for you to create it because you've done that already, haven't you? No, check it out. So from here, you can see we have this to save activity, and now get the same thing that we did. But with this, you can see we are specifying the grouping in here. And now when you go to the itself, here we are grouping it by date as enumerable, because you are going to return an enumerable. So as enumerable, okay? Now, making it as enumerable makes it at uneditable. You cannot edit it. Okay, although you can look through this, but you cannot edit because we are not allowing, we don't want even the admin to edit it. No, you cannot edit. And it must not be edited because it is activities which has been performed and which has been kept in the database. So please, you cannot edit. Okay, yeah, so that's the reason why we're using this enumerable. And now we want to group them by date and a return. This is a very simple one, isn't it? Good. Okay, so now that we have this is also going to work, okay, because since we have registration for this, it means this is also going to be a part of it, and now everything is set and done. Great. Now let's save this. So now that we are done with this, we are going there to start with the red thing itself. This is authentication, okay, and now we are going to work with the product, our location, and our category. So that's the way of performing CRUD on the product. You know, in a warehouse, you cannot go without performing CRUD on product. Maybe I'm calling it product, but how do you want to call yours? Okay, so we need to perform CRUD on that. And in this, we are not using this traditional way. You know, traditional way is whereby you specify the interface and the implementation. We're not using that. We're using this for only the authentication service. We are going to change this a little bit. So the pattern of this is going to be changed, and we're going to be using the CQRS. You know, CQRS stands for CQ. C stands for the command, Q stands for the query, R stands for the responsibility, and now the S stands for segregation. Okay, so this, what it actually means here is we are not creating an interface and our implementation like this. As you've seen, we've bounded like this, as you can see. No, with the CQRS, this is what you're going to do. We need to create a handle, we need to create our request and our commands. Commands are the create, the not the read. No, sorry, it's not the read. It is a create. Anything that is like a command to the system. Create, delete, update. These are the commands. Now read, it is what? Or the query, it is a get all, get by ID, get count, or all the type of get. It is a query. Okay, so we need to create separate folders, and now we create our commands and create our queries. And now these two guys here are going to be found in the application layer because this is going to be called by the UI. Now the handle contains the actual thing. That's why we are implementing the data access layer. That is the EF core. So we need to implement the handle inside the infrastructure. So take note, do not implement both or all in the same. No, make sure you have your command query in the application, handle in the infrastructure, and that sounds good. All right, so that's what you're going to be doing. So let's go through the whole process for creating the product, for location, for orders, and for categories. Yes, we want to do that at once. Okay, so let's see. First of all, what we're going to do here is, let's see, we need to create our models first. All right, so let's first create models for products, location, categories, and other. We go to, let me minimize the application because we don't need it now, to make it more organizable for you. Yeah, so that's a model, domain, project, open, and in our entities folder we have the activity tracker done already. Now we go back to our product first. Now in our product, you can see we have category, we have location, then we have the product. Before we go to the product, we have product base. Now I am having setting up the common properties into one, and I'm naming it as a base, product base. So any property any class which is going to inherit from this product base is going to automatically include ID and our name in each component. Is it component or properties? Yes, properties. That is the right word to replace that, properties. Now we have the ID, we have the name, and now for ID, since it is guild, we want to actually assign default one as a NuGet to it anytime that we want to create a new product. Now when you go to the product, you can see we are inheriting from this product base which has already ID and our name already. Then we're going to category ID, location ID. I know this we are specifying the relationship here as a one to many or a many to one. So one category is going to provide is going to have many categories. Sorry, what did I say? One category is going to have many products. Yeah, that's the right one. One category is going to have the many products. Okay, so that's the one to many from the category section, and now from the product section is the many to one. Many product, one category. Many product, one location. One location, many products. So this is the one to many relationship or many to one relationship. And in that, there is a child component. So we need to specify the ID in here. Okay. So we have the child, we have the parent. The parent, it is a category. The child is a product, because without category, you cannot add product. But here, without product, you can even add category in the category model. So we are adding, we need to specify the location ID and the category ID. And now here we assign this to null because defaultly, when adding product, we don't want to add category in here. We want to only specify category ID. The same thing applies to location. Get the location ID. We need to specify currency, quantity, serial number, description, base, image 64 image, and our date, whereby you have a default setup date. So with the base, I am using as a base 64 string. So I want to convert the base into 64, and I'll save it as a string form in the database. Maybe you like to create a folder in it, and I'll copy or upload the file and I'll dump it inside the folder. So do anyone that suits what you want. But for me, I'll go in for converting the image into base 64 string, which will make it very easy for me to manage that. Okay. Now, aside from doing this, let's see that's a product. Let's see allocation. Allocation is inheriting from this product base, and it has the ID and the name. And here we are having, since we're having this many to one. So from location here, it is one to many. That's it. So one location, many product, and that's how we have it in here. When you go to the category 2, it is inheriting from the same product base, and we have this many to one. This is a one to many. So one category, many product, the same thing. And then this has the ID and the name already. So this is going to inherit from this component as well. Good. Let's see. So that's our products. Let's go in for the order. Now in an order, if a client talking about a shop, okay, not talking about a person, talking about a shop. If a shop as a client want to order an item, we need an ID for that. We need the date ordered. We need delivering date. Okay. Now delivering date is going to be set automatically because the client ordering dates cannot set up a delivering date. No, you cannot specify delivering date. What you do here is just specify the order, and now once we are going to save it, we're going to assign the delivery date to it. Okay. Or we can even allow the admin to update the delivering date. We can do any of them. And we have the product ID. The product that's going to be required, we need to provide the ID. We need the client ID, the client or the shop that is requesting, because a warehouse here could provide services to many shops. So we need to specify the specific. No, we need to specify specific. We need to specify the exact shop that you want making the request. So that's the reason why we need this client ID. Then we need the quantity that the person is looking up for based on the product's ID. Then we have to set the price in here, the total amount that we're going to return to the user. So the product that the person is requesting, the shop is requesting, the quantity, what is the total amount? Okay. So, and now we have this order state. So is it in a delivery mode? Is it in a processing mode? Is it in a delivered mode, etc. So this is the mode that you're going to assign it to this. All right. So now that we have this models, the next thing we're going to do here is we're going to specify we're going to create our DTOs. So let's close the domain because we are done with the domain. But before that, with this, let's go to the infrastructure. And now in AppDB context, that's the data access, AppDB context, we are going to reference them in here. So we have this tracker activity in here, we have the product, we have the category, the location, and the others. So I believe as for this, you know how to do that. So do this quickly, and now close it nicely, and let's navigate to the application layer. And now in here, from a DTO section, this is what we're going to do from a DTO. Let's see. We are that from our request, that is when we're going to create. So request here is going to talking about create, that is update or delete. Now when you go to response, you have the read, get. Okay, so that's it. Now let's first see the response. So from this response, we're going back to this. Let's first tackle the product first. Now you have get category response. So this is going to get categories, and here we are creating our DTO. Okay, so here we are specifying this update category request DTO. We are inheriting from this. The reason is we have that property there specified in a specific model, so I need not to copy it and paste it here, but I can make a reference to that and it's still going to work. Okay, so that's the reason why I did that. And now in here we specify the relationship as well. So we have the get category response, so this is going to get the category in here. And now if I go to update category request, have a look from the request DTO. Here's a request from the product, and now update category, that is this one. We are having the ID, and it's inheriting from this add category request DTO. So from the add category request DTO, you can see that we are having only the name. So when adding category, we need the name. So update means you're going to add the name and then the ID. Okay. Now the same thing that we are doing to this location. We also add category, so you're going to add the name and add the ID. Since they are going to have the same property, that's the reason why I've inherited from each. Okay, so we have the same, the product response, and now with the product response, because we are going to also inherit from the product base. Now when you go to this update category, we are having the ID in here, which is inheriting from this add category, which contains the product name. When you go to update location, here we are inheriting from this update category request. Okay, because from the update category request, it has the ID and it has the name, and that's the same thing that we need from the update location. So we don't need to specify any property here. Update it, and it's going to inherit from all the properties that this model has. And add date product request, the same thing applies to this. We have an ID here, then we need a product base. So what do we have in a product base? That is where you come to the response. Now first of all, this is our product base. It has the name, the serial number, the location, the category ID, and the etc. Okay, so that's base default image. So this is the base default image string that you're going to specify in here, and the name is the product image. You have description, max length, and minimum length are specified, and now you have quantity in here. We have decimal, and that's the price. So here you want to check into 2 decimal places. That's the reason why we're using this regular expression. Aside from that, we have this category ID, and this category ID here is a guild. So before we do that, you want to check, is it guild? So we want to specify this regular expression in here to check out if it's a valid guild format. Then here we are also using this Netcode-Hub required guild. So this is going to make it required. And you know, defaultly guild here is going to give you, we don't have like empty guild. Empty guild is going to give you 000.000.000, right? So that's going to be zeros. And now if you check it using string, it still has content, so that's not going to be null. So that's the reason why I created this component. Okay, so this is an attribute as a package, and that's what we installed. So when you use Netcode-Hub required guild, it's going to make this as required. It's going to check if it is equal to that 000.000. It tells you that it is null. Then return this error message. Okay, so I am making this very simple for you. So install the package as we did, and I use it to make this required, and boom, that is all, you are done. So the same thing applies to this. So once we check it is not null, the value that it's going to receive, you want to also check if it has the right format of the guild, and that is why we specify line 14 and line 18. I hope this is clear. Good. So that's what we are doing. Maybe let me go. Let me let you see the full screen so that you no complain. All right, so that is it. Now once you have this, let's go to the others. So from the others, we have this get other with quantity. So get other product with quantity response. So here we need the product name and the quantity ordered. Okay, so here we are going to, this is going to be used for our graph. Now in the graph, we need the x axis and the y axis, isn't it? Now the y axis we need to specify the quantity in there. Now the x-axis, we need to specify the product name. So the product name and the number of quantity which has been ordered, we want to also specify that in there. And that is exactly what we are doing in here. The same thing applies to when you go to get order response. So this is for order. So if a person or if a client that is a shop make an order, we want to request an order. And this order is going to be viewed by the admin or the manager. And we need to process or specify values for these properties before we can get the full details of an order. So have a look here. We have the ID, but first of all, it's inheriting from this order-based DTO. Let's check that first before we come back to this. So from the order here, we have this order-based DTO from this request, and this order-based DTO has a product ID and it has a quantity. Okay, so keep that in mind. Now when you go to this order response, it has the ID and the quantity. We have the ID down here. Let's see, order base. If I click on this now, pick definition, we have, let's wait. Okay, so we have the product ID, then we have the quantity. So when you come here, we have the order ID itself, we have the product name. Since you have the product ID, you need not to repeat that again. We have product ID, we also have quantity already. We have serial number, order date, and delivering date. Now this is the price. Now the total price here, we are calculating ourselves. We know the price of the product already. So the price here times the quantity that has been specified, and that's going to give you the total amount. We have the product image to display in the form of what? Base default string. We have the client ID in the form of GUID. Then we have the client name. So here we need to specify the client name. We don't want to specify only the ID. We want to add the name itself so that we can have maybe this shop 1. Now this is shop 1. We have the ID as GUID. Now the name is shop 1. So we can know that, okay, fine, this shop is requesting. That's great. Okay. Now aside from that, we have another one that's a get orders count response. So here, this is going to be a record class. And now this is a record class. This is a record. And I get orders count. So the number of orders which have been made, we want to get a count. And now with the count, we need to specify the processing, delivering, delivered, and cancelled. So these are the modes that I created. You can actually add this, you can modify this, you can manage this to suit what you want. Okay. Now as soon as a client make an order, the first thing you want to set as processing. Now the processing, if it has been processed and now it's on the way to the client, you want to set up as delivering. So it's on the way. If it gets the client, it is delivered. If something happens and you want to cancel that request, or even if the client cancels the request, you want to have the state of cancel. So in the record, we want to get track, we want to retrieve all the product order, that is orders, which have the state of processing, which have the state of ordering, which have the state of delivered, or which have the state of cancelled. So we want to gather them in our return so we can display them and know that, okay, in our system, this is the number of products processed, this is the number of orders processed, this is the number of orders delivered, this is the number of orders delivering, and this is the number of ordered this is the number of orders cancelled. Wow, this is a rhyming, isn't it? This is the number of orders delivered, this is the number of orders delivering, this is the number of orders cancelled. So there is a rhyming, it's rhyme, isn't it? Can you say that in a fast way? Okay, so we have this in here, and that's what we are going to specify. Okay, now aside from that, we have our last one, that's the get product ordered by month. So within the month, you want to organize or you want to arrange the product in monthly requested form. So let's say product ordered in the month, you want to specify the month name, the total amount. And now from us to get the total amount here, you want to format it into that's a double string, right? That's a dot in the currency format. So we want to have the comma separated, isn't it? So like the 1000 dash then 000, right? So that's why we are doing the formatting in here. And since we are having this string, since this is decimal, we can format it into a string, and that's very easy for us to do that. Okay, so that is it for our response. Now let's go to our request. We're going to add category. So add category, we've also spoken about this already. Now let's go to the order. Now create order. Here we are having this order base, and now this order base has a quantity and it has the product ID. Pip definition, we have the quantity in here, we have the product ID. So if the client wants to make an order, all that he needs here is to specify the product ID. But in this, we are not going to display the ID for the person, we're going to display the product name. then we're going to hide the ID. So as soon as the person get the product name, we can get the product ID. Okay, then the client or the shop needs to specify the quantity, and that is all. So we don't need anything. We need the product ID and the quantity. That's what we need from the user, and that is all. Okay, so when you go to the order base DTO, we have the product ID and the quantity as discussed earlier on. Now when you go to update client order, if I want to update it, I want to specify this order ID, the order that is coming, and I can update it by changing the state and the delivery date. So the delivery date, I can set it to today's date, or I can set it to the next date, or I can specify the date that I want. But this is the initial date. Okay, so this is going to give you the current date of the day. So maybe if you are delivering it today, as soon as you go to update, you click on today's update, and you're going to get the today's date. As soon as you click on save, you have this date in there. And now one thing here is, as soon as you click on save, and the state of this has been changed to delivering, the client must see it, and you're going to make that happen using the SignalR. So that's the reason why we are having the SignalR package installed in here. Good. So we haven't gotten there. When you get there, you understand this better. So this the models that we need and the DTOs that we need for the product, the others, the categories, and the location for this project. So now that we are done with this, we're going to create our command for this, and our command is going to exist in create, update, or delete, right? So let's see for that. Now let's close our DTOs because we are done with that. Now let's go to the service in here. And now in the service, we're going to create a folder known as the product folder. Now the product folder, we have a command in here. So the command, we have category, we have location, we have product. Then when you go to the others, you also have commands. So let's first talk about them. Now when you go to the product for the command, we need create product command. Okay, so now creating this command, and now here you need to use this mediator, and now you don't have to inherit from this iRequest. This iRequest are going to return the response state or the response entity. Here we need a service response, so we need to specify the service response in here. And now this is our model that we want to pass it on. So this is our add product request DTO. Create command, then pass in the model, and now get the response that you want. Very simple one. Now let's go to delete product. We need to specify an ID, because in order for us to delete product, we need only the ID, nothing much. So the ID, and now this is the response that's going to return. And now when you go to this update product too, we need the model as update product, and now we need to return a service response. That is all. Each of them here is a record, but I can make it as a class. Okay, in that you need to specify this in here in the long run. But for now, I think the improved version of Teacher version 12 records are very useful. So try to use that in your code to simplify it and make it more readable. Alright, so we have our product. Let's go to our location. It's the same thing, right? See, location is the same, right? Delete location is not the same. Update location is not the same. The same. Good. Now let's see our categories, and I believe you're also saying it is the same. Yes, so pause the video and try hands on that, and let's see. It is the same. So copy and paste it, and I go your way. Copy and paste for that from the create category. Delete the same, and I'll update to the same. Good. Yes. Okay, so let's go to the, now we are done with that command. Let's see our put others command. From our others, we need a cancel other command, and now here we need an other ID to cancel it. The return type here is service response. Cancel other command here, it is, let's see, okay, this is create other. So if you want to create an other, we have create other request. It is a model, and I want to return service response. Okay, this service response has a property of what? Bool and message. Okay, so in case you have any issue, displays in case it is also successful, also display something meaningful to the user. Now there's an update client others. So you create a model in here, and I'm going to return service response. So you see, it's the same thing that I just copy and pasted. So working on this is very easy, because doing this is just copy and paste, and now you go your way. Alright, so now that we are done with that command, let's create our queries for our product, our location, category, and our others. So let's create a folder in here, and this is going to be for others. You're going to have queries, and as a product, you're going to also have queries. Now let's first work with the product first as usual. Now in our queries, you can see from the product, we have get product by ID. And now in here, we have the query. There's a query passing the ID. And now this is going to return a product response. So here, we want to return the model itself. We don't want to return service response, because here we want to get product by ID. So the return type must be an entity of product. So that's the reason why we have this get product response down here. Get product query, this has to return an enumerable of what get product response. And now when you go to the categories too, we have get all categories. No, this is a location. So we're going to return enumerable of get location. The same thing applies to get location with product. I did not implement this method, but maybe you can do that. So we have the command and we have the handler maybe created, and you can go ahead and integrate it in the UI and I'll make it work. I believe you can do that. Very simple and easy way. Alright, so with this, get location with product query, and now with this, you're going to return an enumerable of what get product location response. And that is all. And aside from that, let's go to the categories too. Get all categories. You're going to return enumerable of get category response DTO. And now from the section of get categories with product, we want to get all categories with product. So we're going to return a response of get category response DTO. So this is going to return a list of product. And aside from that, when you go to the others from the query, get all others, and it's going to get others the response. So there's an enumerable. And now when you go to the next one, get generic order count query. Now what I did here was I was finding a way to create a single method which can be used by a client and also an admin. If I talk about the admin, talking about the administration, that is the manager or the user. No, that's the manager or the administrator, not the user. The user is the shop. So I want a simple method so it can be used by both of these people. Okay, a shop and now an administration. So with this, what I decided to add a property of what boolean as is admin. Default is set to false, and if this is false, it means the request coming here is a user request. And in this case, you have to specify the user ID. But in case this is true, then it means you don't need user ID, because for admin you want to get everything, but for user you want to get what is related to that specific user only. So that's the reason why I created this, and I just return a get others count response. Okay. And aside from that, we have our get others product with quantity, and that's what we're going to be using for our graph. So we specify user ID in here. If user ID is equal to null, it means it's an admin and you want to get everything in a display. So this is going to get the enumerable of what get other product with quantity response DTO. So get other product with quantity response DTO. So this is going to be the DTO that we created to be used as a graph. Okay, we've gone to this already. So if I pick definition for this, you know what we did. So that's the product name and the quantity ordered. Do you remember? Yes. Okay, now the last one, not the last but one is a get others by ID. So get other passing the user ID. You want to get other based on the shop. So the shop ID, get all the others related to that shop. And that's why we are having it in here. And the next one is get product ordered by month. So get product ordered by month query. So you specify if this query is being queried by executed by the user or a shop, you want to specify the shop ID in here. But if it's an admin, then it's going to be null. And if it is null, it means you want to grab everything and now display. And now you want to return the enumerable of this get product ordered by month response DTO. Okay, so this is the query that we need for our others and our product location, categories, and then what again? That is all. Okay, so let's save this. So the next thing that we're going to do here is to create handler for each of the query, each of the commands or the queries created. So we're going to create handler for each. So let's start to create that. So let's go to the infrastructure. Now we are done with the application layer. Okay, so let's go to the infrastructure and now work on the handler in there. Okay, so in our repo, you can see I have created 3 folders and do same. Is it 3 or 2? 2 folders. Others folder, and now we have the product folder. Now if I open product folder, you can see I have handlers. Now there's a handler. So from the handler, I have a category, location, and a product. Okay, but in that I have general DB responses. Now what is this response going to do? It's just a response that I created. Okay, so I can be calling this often and often and often. So I'm able to create one, only this. Okay, but I could not create the other one for the others. This is for category, for location, and for product. But others, I couldn't create one for others. So maybe you can also do that when you understand this very well. Here we know definitely we're going to have existence of already created order. So in this case, we want to specify this order has been created. If order is not found, you want to return this. Or if any product or category item is not found, if it is created, this is what we want to do. If it is updated, this is what we want to do. If what is created, this is what we want to do. All the time, we're going to specify the name. Okay, so I didn't want to create a single method that can be passing the message. I want to skip this message. So create this message once and for all, and I'll be calling this and passing the name. That is all. So that's the reason why I have repeated this about 3 or 4 times. 5 times, yes. If you count right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, 5 times. Good. Now, aside from this, we're going to create our handlers. So from the handler, let's first start with the product as usual. We have create product handler, and now with the create product handler, you can see here we are inheriting from this our request handler. Now this request handler, we pass in our command that we created, and at the service response, that's a return type. Now in that, we have to implement the interface, and from the interface, we're going to be using DB context factory. We need to create context factory. The reason why we need to do that is, the reason why we're using this CQRS here, it is we want to segregate it. We want to have a scope for each make a query, or each command we're going to have each DB context. Okay, so we don't want to conflict with each. We don't want to be using one DB context for all. Okay, in this case there must be some issue. So you want to create a context of a DB context class for each of the query that you're going to execute in the CQRS. So in here we're going to have a context factory, then create DB context. But where are we getting this from? We're getting this from this app DB context factory. And where this interface is coming from, let's go do that from the app DB context folder. So check the infrastructure, and in the data access folder, because you have DB context factory, you have the interface first, and at the interface here we have create DB context. And now in that, from the implementation DB context factory, we have from the that's the iService provider, and in that we want to create DB context. So in that, you want to get the required service of this DB context factory. Okay, so this is going to give us access to this DB context. Now when you go to the create product, we are creating a context for this. So this context is going to be used by this. That's the reason why we are using this using keyword. Now as soon as you are done using this, it's going to dispose it. Okay, so in normal run, we're supposed to surround it with this. But C# version 12, we can get rid of this, and we can use it straight ahead and move on with this, and it's going to work. So we create a context in here, and this context is limited to this. Now we want to find the product if it exists by the name. In case it exists, we want to return something like it's already created. So you can see if location is not equal to now, it means return item already exists, passing the product name, and that is all. Okay, so here it is for product, and I want to go to this. In case it does not exist, then we want to adapt it by converting from DTO to the entity, and now save it. Then save these changes, and now this we can return. You can pass in the cancellation token to this, and now return item created. We pass in the model, and that is all. In case you have any issue, you want to return this service response. That's what we are doing for product. Now let's have a look from the delete. So from delete, we are going to inherit from this iRequest handler. That's where you specify the delete product command, and a return type as service response. We implement the interface in here, and I create also a context factory for this. So in a DB context, you're also going to make a search from this, pass down the ID, and in case you have it, then remove it and I'll save it, and I return item deleted, passing the name. In case it is not, it doesn't exist, then return product doesn't exist. Okay, now let's see from the next one, that is the get product by ID handler. So here we are specifying, you can see all the time we are injecting a DB context factory so we can create an instance of it. And then here we specify our product query, then the return type, and then in that we're going to implement the interface. Here we are going to make a search of this from the category, and then we are going to include location and a category because you want to get a product and include category and a location. So we have to include it in here, and now check if the ID will correspond to what is coming in here. After that, then we want to return, we're going to populate it in here, and I return it. And since you're having this location, we are going to do it here. I tried using this, using the map star, but I got an error. That's the reason why I manually did this. Okay, maybe I can also integrate AutoMapper and now use that, but to make this simple, I decided to do it straight ahead. And now since we don't have much models to forget, I remember all this, so I did that. Now let's go to the next one, and that is a get product handler. So this is going to get all the products. We create DB context factory, and in here we pass in a get product query. We specify the return type, and now we implement the interface in here. After implement the interface, we want to create a context for this context factory. Then in that, you want to get all the products as a to list. As you can see from here, we get as a list. We include category, and now we include what location. In that, we're going to return this as select, and we want to specify the ID. These are the properties, and the location, and the category, because we want to include this. So we need to specify that, and I return to list. Very simple one. Now let's see the next one. That is an update product handler, and we are also doing same. So we see we specifying our update command. We specify the return type. We implement the interface, and that's what we have. And now in that, we create a context. Then we're going to make a search of this and specify the ID in case we find that. Then in case we do not find, then return item not found. But in case we have that, then we're going to update. So instead of you manually mapping it, we want to detach it. After detaching it, then update endpointer becomes available, so we can update it straight ahead, and now we can save it and return item updated. That is exactly what we are doing. And the last one, whoa, there's no last one finished. Let's go to location. Actually, it's the same thing. So if you understand this, then you can go ahead and do the same thing for location, category, and product. So I'm not going to talk about this anymore because it's the same thing. I'm going to let you view it, okay? So that you will not comment that I did not let you view. Yes, because I know by all means, you comment on the comment section. You did not show this. Yes, I want to show you. So click on, so for create location, it is the same. So there's no token. So see, it's the same, right? So we create a context factory, then we're going to add it, and now save and return item created. The same thing applies to the delete command. We also pass in the ID with the context factory, and then here we create an instance. We pass in the command with the return type. We implement the interface in here. We create a context factory. That's the context factory for this. Then we're going to make a search. When we have it, we're going to remove it and now save it and return. Okay, so that is item updated. No, this is what this is. Delete. So not item updated, there's item deleted. So dot item deletes. Yes. Okay. Now the same thing applies to the get all location command. Now from the get all location command, this is what we are doing. We want to get all location, so we're going to specify in our get all location query, and in that is specify going to return an enumerable of get location response DTO, and in that we implement the interface. We create a DB context factory in here, and now get location as to list, and now return. So we're going to adapt it in here. So we are converting from the entity to DTO. Okay, then return, and that's exactly what we are doing in here. Now let's check the next one, and that is the update location. So for update, we are using the context factory as we have been doing. There is a command, and there is a return type. We implement the interface, create a context, and now make a search. When we have it, what are you going to do? In case you don't have, return item not found. But in case you have it, detach it, then update it, convert, adapt it into what? An entity. Then save it. And here, let's pass in the, let's write the cancellation token to this. Alright. Then return item updated. And aside from that, let's see. So that's for the location. When you go to category, it is the same thing that we are doing. So we're going to create it. In there, we pass in our command. Service return type, implement the interface, create a context, search for the category ID. In case you have it in there, then that's what you're going to do. Yes, let me show it well. That's what you're going to do. In case you do not have, then, or in case it is not equal to now, because you're going to create. So return item already as this. But in case it is, you're going to adapt it, add it, save it, and I'll return that. Let's see from the next one, delete. It is the same thing that we are doing, so the same idea, the same concept, implement that. There is a delete command, it's a return type, open the interface, create a context, search for the ID. In case you have it, go move ahead. In case you do not, return this category. In case you have it, remove it, save it, and I'll return the item deleted. Let's see the next one, get all category handlers. So the same thing, and the command here, it is what? Get all category query, and the return type is an enumerable of a get category response DTO. You implement the interface in here, create a context, get as no tracking, return as a list, then adapt it, and I return in the form of what? List. Whereby it's going to handle convert into enumerable list. For update, we're doing the same thing. So these are command, these are response or return type. These are the interface implementation, and create a context, search for the ID of that particular category. In case you find that, detach it, convert it into a new model, then update it, save it, and I return this. Okay, so here let's see, we can, okay, but in case this is null, then I want to return item not found. Okay, so that is what we are also doing in here. All right, so that is for the category. So we are done with the category, location, and the product. Let's go to our others. So from the others handler, we have cancel other. So here, admin and user can also cancel their others. Now in here we have to specify our command. So cancel other command, and the return type here is service response. Implement the interface, create a context, and now here search for the order. And now when you have the order, this is what you need to do. Set the state to cancelled, save this, and I return. This is very simple. You see that? Now create order. You're going to create order by adding order. So we need to specify the command and the response, the set response type. Implement the interface, create a context, and after creating this context, we want to first search in case you have that product in there already. So you can see from here, product.first and get the product itself. Sorry, so here we're getting the product itself. Okay, because you want to make an order and we need to get the product details. So make an order from here, get the product by the ID specified from the client session. Then in case you have it, then we're going to adapt it from the order. In case you have it, then we're going to provide or going to calculate the total price from here. There's the total amount. There's the order state is going to be processing. So as soon as you make a first order, the state here is going to be processed automatically. Then there's the price that you're going to see. Then after that, you're going to add it, save changes, and I return that. So order placed successfully. Okay, so aside from that, you have the next one as get all orders handler. This is going to get all the orders, and now this all orders, this is what we are doing. We are injecting our user manager in there because you're going to be finding the username and return. There is a query, and the return type here is what enumerable of get order response DTO. Aside from that, when you check this, you see we implement the interface, and aside from implementing the interface, we create the context. Then we get all orders here, we get all product, get all users first. After that, let's see what this is going to talk about. Okay, so after getting this, what we're going to do here is you want to select an order, and now you're going to populate it. So there's an ID, this is a name. So for the name, we will get from the product. From the image, we're going to get it from the product. From the serial number from the product, and from the client name from the user manager. Okay, so that's from the users. So you populate it in here, and now we return that. So let's see the next one that we have here. Is a get generic order count query. So this is generic one, and in there, this is what we are checking up in here. Now let me just show you one thing. Okay, not here. Now from this get order handler, let's see, is that what we clicked? So there's a get generic order count handler. Okay, so from here, we have to inherit from this, and now specify the query and the return type. Aside from that, we create a context, we create a list of this order, and now we are checking if admin is false, meaning it is user. If else, get this. Okay, so here we're getting two lists. Now you're getting by client ID. So if admin is false, it means there's a client ID, and this request is being called by the user, or that's the shop. So get the IDs or the orders related to the specific user. So aside from getting it, you want to process it in here. So we get a count of the processing count, delivering count, delivered count, and our cancelled count. You see? So we get a list, and now we're going to make a search of this, and I get a count. And now we want to return this. So this is going to give us the processing, the delivering, delivered, and now the cancel. Okay. So let's see, we have get other product with quantity. So in here, we also going to create our query with a return type of enumerable, get other product with quantity response DTO. Implement the interface from here, create the DB context. Now get the list, and also create a list of this data, and that's the ordered product with quantity response handler. In case the user ID is also, in case it is not null, it means this query is being called by user or the shop. So get it by the user ID and get all others by the user ID. In case it isn't, then it's going to be issued by an admin. So commit to a list and I'll return. And now to get this order within 12 months, we need to group this. So others.where we're going to order it by what? Daytime within the 12 months. So we're going to select the period of what? 12 months. So the date of today minus 12 months, if it's equal to what we have in there, meaning that we want to get the 12 month on. Okay, so you're going to search the product or the orders based on the date. After that, you're going to group by the name, so product ID. Okay, so once you group it, you want to convert it to a list. And now once you have this, you're going to loop through this. After looping through, you're going to create an instance of this get order with quantity, because this is a list that we need to add. So you're going to create an instance of this and I'll add it. We find the product name, and that the product name here is going to be the key. Okay, so we're going to extract the name from here, and now the ordered quantity here is going to be the sum of the quantity in there. So in each group, the key is going to be the name, and the quantity is going to be the sum of all the sum. That's the quantity in there. Okay, and at the end of the day, you're going to return this as a list. Okay, so this is the grouping that I did. Maybe you can actually modify this in a simple way, or actually in more readable way. Well, if you understand what you're doing, you can actually do that to suit what you want. Okay, get orders by ID handler. Now this is going to get orders by ID, so the specific client get that specific orders. So we're going to return an enumerable of get orders response. There's a handler here, or the query that we need here is a get orders by ID query. Implement the interface beautifully as I've done here. Then we need to create instance of this. As you know, you want to get the orders which correspond to the ID as a list, because a shop could make multiple orders. So get all the orders accumulated, and now get also product as well. And now here, in order to select the get orders response, we need to specify these values for these properties: an ID, product name up to state. So in that, the product name, we want to get the product name from the product list that we have in here, product image from the product, and then the serial number also from the product. The rest we can extract it from the orders, as you can see from here. Then let's see the next one. We have get product ordered by month. So we want to get product by month, and in here we are inheriting it from this I request handler, whereby we need to specify the query and also the return type. So this is our return type. Implement the interface beautifully, create an instance, create a list of this get orders by month response. And now here, if ID is null, meaning it is what we want to get by. If ID here is not equal to null, meaning this call is being issued by shop, so use this. Else, then it's by management, so use convert it to a list and I return everything. Now in that, we're also going to group this into 12 months as we did, then group it by month. So in that month, convert to a list, loop through that, and at the key here, it is a month. Now in order to get the month name, you want to use the current culture, then pass in the month key, which is going to give you the month name. So this is going to be maybe 5, it's going to be the 5th month, 10th is going to be the 10th month, 1 is going to be the 1st month. Okay, and I get a total amount of this in here. Alright, so now that we also have this beautifully done, we go to the update client order handler, and now in that we also have to inherit from this update client order command with our return type. Implement the interface beautifully, create an instance, make a search from this, and I get the ID of this order. When you have this is what you're going to do. Check if it is null, return this. In case it is not null, then you want to change or update the state and also the delivering date. After that, save the changes and I'll return that. Yeah, so that's all we need. So these are the commands, and these are the handlers, and these are the queries that we need for this project. Okay, maybe you can go beyond this, but when you have this, you can actually add more of a feature to this. This is for just an introduction and actually to give you some insight on how to go about this. So I'm not doing everything, but this is what our system is going to contain. You can extend this feature, this system, to any level of your choice. Good. So now that we have this, let's save this. And now with our commands, we need to register one of these in our dependency injection so we can get the assembly. So let's do that from our service container in the infrastructure. So go to the dependency injection folder, and now from our service container, and we are going to register 1. So that's the reason why we are using this mediator. And configuration is going to specify the assemblies, and I'll actually add one handler, and that is I was going to get the assembly and I integrate all of them together. Okay, so we're going to search for one, and I'm going to grab all the handlers in that assembly. Okay, now in order to use the DB context function that we created, we need to also add it. We created an interface and implementation, so we need to do that, and I pass in this app DB context, because here this needs a T value, where this T entity here is a DB context. So this class also inherits from DB context, so we have to pass in this app DB context in here, which will create instance for any request or any command. Okay, so now we are done with our service container for the infrastructure. Now let's go to, so now that we are done with this, what else can we do? We have our commands and our queries created already, so we need not to, what we're going to do here is we can go ahead and integrate it straight ahead into our UI, and that will be all. So now let's specify, or let's create our project layout. Okay, so in that we go to the layout, a component layout in here, and we see we have this identity folder created, we have this authentication layout, and that is what we've gone through. Now here it is the layout for login. When you run the page, the component or the application, the initial page here is we have only the login screen displayed, and that is the reason why, this is the reason why we have that, because we created an authentication layout for that. So when you go to the login page, so let's see from our pages we have, so when you go to the identity, then you have a login page. We are using, okay, let's go to the import. Now here we are using this authentication layout. Okay, so this authentication layout is what has been defined on top here. So we have this authentication layout, and here we have only the container fluid, and we have the body tag in here. Okay, in that you're going to create a custom authorization service, and now this we have an interface and an implementation in there. Now this is going to check, so as you can see, this is custom claim checker. So this is going to check if the person has that right, and here is going to return boolean. So here you can see when you talk about the claims that you created when adding user, create, update, read, they are all boolean. So you want to check if the person, or if that activity, or if that claim is set to true. So you pass in the user, and then pass in the specific claim that you want. Then in that we can go ahead and now use that. So once you create this, you have to register this in the program.cs file. So when you go to the program, we are registering this iCustom service with a custom service created in here. Okay, now let's see what the definition is going to talk about. Now in that we're going to check if user is not authenticated, then return false. But in case user is authenticated, then check if the user has that specific claim. If yes, then move on. If no, return false. In case he has that, you're going to check, convert it to boolean, and check if it is true, return. If it is false, return. This is very simple. Okay, we're going to be using this to hide and now show some component or some element from the user. So aside from creating that, the next thing I'm going to do here is we have this identity validating auth state provider created already. We have our redirect to login also created already. Then we have our sign out endpoint. So this is going to be an endpoint which is going to allow us to sign the user out. So you can see here we are passing in the sign-in manager as a context, and in the context you can now get the user sign out, and I'm going to get rid of the cookie set into the cookie storage of the browser, and I'm going to return to the login. Okay, so now once we've done this, we have to also register or map this sign out endpoint in the program. So go to program.cs file, and down here you can see we have map sign out endpoint. Where is it? Map sign out endpoint, that is it. So do that in here. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do here is we have our layout configured nicely, and we're going to have our navigation and under sidebar. So in our navigation bar, you can see I have this nav item created, and that is a simple UI thing that I did. Okay, there's a list, and I'm giving out there's a form which is going to be the form for sign out, and in that you can see we can get the user auth state from here, and now we want to get a name, so we want to extract the name from the claims and now display down here. So profile name, we want to display the person's name in there. Aside from that, you can see we have the on mobile screen logo. In case it's on mobile view, I want to display this logo in there. So this logo has been added to the project in the www folder, and that is the logo down here. It is the logo, and I want to display down here. If I click on this, please navigate to the home page. Good. Then let's check the sidebar as well. So this is the sidebar. I have the sidebar, I have the brand and the content. So this is the brand. The brand, it has an image, and that is the image that I have in here. It has the brand also as an image, and I have this down in here. All the images are linked down there. Now, if we click on any of them, you see we have this href attribute. It is navigating you to the home page straight away. Okay. Now let's see from the content. Now the content here, we are authorizing. So you see, we are using the authorized view. If you're not authorized, you're not going to see the home page. If you are administrator, then you can see this. All admins can see this because this is coming from the admin policy. If you're a user, you can see this. So this is from user policy. Okay, and this has to be authorized. So if you're authorized, you can see this. So no matter the state you are, whether your policy is admin or the user, you're going to see this. And then the first one, as far as authenticated, you're going to see the first top and then the last bottom. Yeah, the first top and then the last bottom. Good. Now let's talk about the one after the other. Now when we go to the policy, the admin one, you know, with the admin policy, we don't want the manager to see everything that admin can see. So that's why we are using this can manage. And right from this can manage, check down here. Can manage is set is to false. And now we're going to call this custom auth service and pass in the claim. Now the claim here is a managed user. So is managed user set to true for this specific user? If yes, then please display all this to the user. And I can see we have this create user, manage user, and now there's an activity log. Click on each, and I'm going to navigate you to this, as you can see from here. Okay, but in case you are not, this is false, this is going to be hidden, and you cannot see this, and you can see only this one. So that's the manage product management, product category and allocation, and in that you can click on this to manage each of them. Okay, you can see each is also linked to the reference or the link or the route as specified in there. Now, this is for admin orders. So as you can see from this is for the administration, and then there's the orders. So admin can see the orders, manager can also see the orders. And now when you click on it, there's a link that's going to navigate you to that specific component which has been created. Okay. Now, so that is for the administration policy. Now let's go to the user policy. So from the user policy, before a person can see, he must be authorized, and that's the first thing. User must see my orders. Okay, and that is all. So I'm not adding much feature here, just a simple one, but you can actually go ahead and extend this. Okay. Now this is an authorized view, so we've spoken about this already, and this gives you access to the system info and the version that I made. Maybe this is 1.0.0, but well, you can improve this version. Aside from any update, you can improve the version. Okay, and that's what we have in there for our sidebar. Now in that, you also go to our footer, and that is a footer, very simple one. It's a footer class created, and we have an image down there, and that is going to be in the center, as you can see from the Justify Content Center, and that's the inventory management system from the 2024. Maybe by Netcode-Hub I could have added it, or I can even add it now, or maybe you can add it yourself. Good. Then let's see. And our main layout, that is where we need to configure. So this nav menu, we do not need this, so we can remove this nav menu because we don't need this, and we are not using this in our project. Now in our footer, we've done that already. Now let's go to our main layout, and that is where we need to integrate our Breeze main layout template. Okay, the package that we install as a Breeze, we need to use that in here. It's a normal template that I sat down and I tried to modify that and add some little features here to make it as a package that we can all use. Okay, so for now it is free. You can install that and in your project, and it's very nice. It's a look and feel, and it's amazing. Okay, so what we're going to do first is you have to use the main layout. So this is the main layout as a container. In that, there is a must inner template that you need to specify. It's a must. You cannot skip this. So that's the inner template. And inner template, you have this authorized view. So as for this, you can it's not must, because an authorized view allows you to hide and show content. So if you're not authorized, you're not going to see any of this. But if you're authorized, you can now see that. But if you want even not authorized person can see, then you have to get rid of this authorized component. And now we have this sidebar template. So this sidebar template has the brand and the content, and that's what we created down here. We specify the brand and the content in here. Aside from that, we have the navbar template, and now here I have two themes here, dark and white. So that dark and light, so you can choose any. For now we are trying the dark, and when we're done, we're going to also try the light and for you to see. In that, you have this body template, and I specify this body in it. And in here from our nav item, we have the start and at the end. Here, I am using the end, but you can decide to use the start. So the end, I have this nav items also specified in there. Then on mobile logo, we want to also specify this component as on mobile screen logo, and that's what we created in our layout in here. So in our nav menu, you see our mobile screen logo. We have our nav items. When we go to sidebar, we have the brand, we have the content, and that's why we are filling it in here. You can actually go ahead and copy this, straight ahead and paste them in here. But for organization purpose, I think this is more readable, isn't it? So we'll make it in this way. Alright, there are more to this, but for now, this is what we need. So I want us to focus on this and move on with our project. So this is the main layer that we need to configure. Aside from when you are done with this, it means you're good to go. Alright, so let's save this. So now that we are done with this, our layout, we can actually close this because we are done with this. Now let's go to the hub and now let's start creating the hub. So this hub, that is this one. So create a folder known as hub. Then I have a communication hub class created, and now there is a hub. So this is going to be a notification. Now this is going to be used by the client and the admin. Okay, so as soon as I make an order, admin must get notified. I myself must also be notified. As soon as client or admin also update the order, I and my client has to get notified, and now the admin itself must also get notified. So in that, you create a pivot hub for that, and that's the notification. And now we're going to send to everybody on it. So send, specify the method name that we want. And for now, you can see here we are passing the client ID. For now, I am not using the client ID. Okay, so you can decide to skip that, but we want to actually pass in something so we can test. And maybe in the future video, if you want to update this, you know, well, I can pass client ID, so it means I can pass in another property as well. And sure, it's going to work. Okay, so once you have this, we need to create a class for this or a service for this so that we can be using it, because you know we have a lot of components. And we cannot be initializing this hub in each component, so we can create multiple instances. No, we don't want to do that. We want to create only an instance, so we can be using it multiple times in our component. I hope this is a good idea, isn't it? So that's the reason why we need to create a service. So this is a service that I created, and now this is a service. You know, when the page starts, I need navigation manager, and in that I'm going to build my connection. So this is a connection that I'm building from. It is a route, and in that I'm going to start. After starting, I call this method, and now this method is going to get the connection of this. So as soon as I get hub connection, it means it's going to start. This connection has already been started, and I can get it from here. Okay, and in our component we can check if this is not started, then we can also start it ourselves. Maybe in case of some issue, you could not start, then we want to start it ourselves, and we're also going to integrate that. So once you have this service creator, you know we have to restart this. So go to the program and I restart this hub connection down there, and now straight ahead you can go your way. Netcode connection service, add that. Well, you can change the name if you want, or you can maintain it if you want. Okay, that's fine. So now that we are done with this, we need to create our state. So you can see I have a folder created and I name it as state down here. So we're going to do the same. In that we have an administration and we have a user state. Now let's see the administration state. Now the administration state, we have admin active or account. What is this state going to do? Now this state is going to give us the processing count, the delivering count, the delivered count, and the cancel order count. Do you remember these properties? We created this as a query. In here, get generic order count. So you want to call this and update the UI automatically as soon as an order or a change has been made. Okay, so we create an action in down here, and I get an active order count. So as soon as we call this, we create an instance of the scope provider in here. Then we're going to call the service, or that's the generic count query down here. As soon as we count that, then we want to set the response to the property setup in here. As soon as this change, then you want to invoke this. Okay, now when you invoke this, it's going to render the page which has been subscribed to this event, and now you're going to see the rare update when we use this component or these properties in there. So this is what we are doing. Aside from that, we go to the generic home header, and that's what we are doing. From component, we can click on maybe we're going to be displaying all our processing. We're going to display all these tags on top. No matter you're an admin or client, you can see that. But it is up to us to check if you are client or you're an admin or you're a manager. Okay, so admin and manager, they're going to view the same thing. But for client, we need to specify the records of that person, that client. Okay, So that's the reason why we're going to have this generic home header. Now this header is going to be on top of the home for all the components, whether you're an administrator or whether you are an user, you're going to see that. Now you want to check the state name. You're going to find if an admin, there's also an event that we are creating. Now get processing others is whereby you have the state name equal to the state name that you're going to provide. And this admin is going to be the admin that you're going to provide in here. If it is true or false, then after that you're going to invoke this. We're going to be using this state soon, so don't worry. Now aside from that, we have our admin state, and now let's go to the user state. Now from the user state, you have user active order count, and it's the same thing. But you see from here, we pass in the user ID. From the admin section, we did not pass any admin ID. Here we are passing user ID. And now we call generic order count, and now we pass in the user ID in here. And now its admin is set to false. So it's going to execute the next statement, which is going to get us a count based on the user which has been specified as an ID. Then in that, we also invoke this to get the page re-rendered which has subscribed to this event. Good. So that's our state that we need. The last one that we need here is our change password state. Now, you know, when creating user account or creating an account as an admin for a user, you know, for password, you need to confirm, show, and hide password. So in that, I created a simple state for that. And this is the state that I use to hide password. Okay. So there's a very simple state for that. And you can see I'm using this invoke to get the page re-rendered and then display the password. I'll change the password type to test, and now password as it toggles between them. Okay. Now we need to also register the states. So from here, you can see we have this use active order count state has been added here. Change password state has been added. Admin active has been added. Generic home header state has been added. Right. So you need to add all this service in here, and that will be all. Okay. So that's our state. Now, after we are done with this, we're going to add our packages, JS, and our CSS references. And we can do that from the app.razor component. So go to your component folder, and now in that, let's minimize the pages. You know, we have this app.razor, and in that is what you need to add. The first thing I need to add here, it is a template for the Breeze template that I added. We need to add the following links in here. Aside from that, from SyncFusion, we need to also add the themes down here, and we need to add the script as well. Now, for my package, that is a modal, we need to add the modal.js package reference as a script. And also for Blazor, we need to also add the CSS and also add the JS down here. And now we're going to create a custom JS. Also add this custom JS down here. Okay, there's a file that we're going to be creating. And aside from that, you know, we have this, when you come to the body tag, you know, we have the bootstrap.bundle.min.js. You can also add this down here as a bootstrap. And then we need to add the bundle for the package, that's a Breeze template. We need to also add the base. We need to also add the setting.js. So these are the packages, the references that you need to add. Now let's see, before we go, let's go to our www root folder. Then from our JS, you know, we have a custom JS. So this is a custom JS. Now this is going to toggle between if I hover the mouse on, it has to increase the size. There's some feature that we are adding. Okay, we added a little bit feature to this. So this the JS file that I created simply for this. Very simple one, but it actually it works. Okay, so this JS file that I created, and that is what we need. So create that, and aside from that, we are going to put in the custom.js, and I make a reference to this as we've gone through earlier. Alright, also here you need to install Bootstrap, and if you don't know how to install Bootstrap, right click on this, then go to add a client side library, and I type in Bootstrap, and I install that in there. Very simple one and easy to do that. So aside from this, let's go to our Import.razor from the component. You know, we have an Import.razor file here, and let's feed it with our instances and our references. So from here, what we need to start from here, we need our state down here, we need the hub, we need the layout identity, we need the authorization, we need our component, we need the web UI, and we need the local storage. So this is what we need. Okay, and maybe Microsoft.js into, I think this is the default one found there. So, and we need our mediator, so specify on top here. Aside from that, we need identity with this. We need the identity for this again for application. And now from our validation package that we installed from our Netcode-Hub package, we need to add these references. Then this for authorization. This is for the general components that we're going to be creating soon, and this for the template. So we need to actually add this. So these are what we need. And now when it comes to the instances, you can see that here we have navigation manager, we have nav manager, auth state provider, we have the auth state, change password state, and that's the password state. There is a connection for the SignalR, and we have the account service instance. Our service provider created instance. This is the default one, so you don't have to create any interface for this. We have JS runtime instance. This is a generic home state, user state, admin state that we created recently. This is a custom auth state service that also we created. And in that, you know, when you install local storage from this Netcode-Hub, you have an interface that you can actually use, and that is the iLocal storage service, and this comes from the local storage service. So we have these are the instances that we need for this project. Okay, so let's add that. Aside from that, I created a limited Import.razor file against some component in a folder. So if let's open the pages folder. Now in here from the identity, you know, I created one which is limited to this identity folder, and in that is also what we need. So you can actually create that and add this in here. And now this is going to allow anonymous for the authorization, and this is coming from this identity in the pages folder. Okay, then when you go to this administration, you also have the same Import.razor here. And at this import, we are having this authors attribute, which is limited to the administration policy. So if you're not in this policy, you cannot access any component in this folder. And in that we have this count state and the home generic state. All the states also added down here. These are the references that you also need to add. So make sure you do this, and I'll add the same thing down here. Okay. So aside from this, I think our import files have been exhausted. We don't have any imports again, so we have one in the administration, one in the identity, and also one for the general one. That's so 3 import files have been added to this project to include the various instances and other references based on the specific component that you want to work on. Okay, so now that we are done with this, we have all our this ready. What we're going to do next here is we're going to work from the admin or the manager perspective. So we're going to be adding user, we're going to be managing the user, and we're going to be viewing that's the activities. Okay, so that's we're going to include the activity tracker in a component that you can use it using the Blazor and also the Centricin package that we installed. So you know, from the identity folder we can also add another folder and name it as administration. Now in that we have add user page, manage user, and our user management or activity, or that's going to be the activity tracker page. Okay, so you can rename it to any name that you want. Now for add user page, this is what you're going to do. We're having this an edit form. Now this edit form, since we are going to be adding user, we want the user full name, we want the email address, we want the password, and that's where we are using the password state. So we can click on it to hide the password, and now we can click on it to also show the password. So we have this as simple edit form that we have. And here, in order to use this, you can see we have to use the temp or the theme that we created. And at the theme, we have this the 3 session template, and I have column 9 template. And with column 9, you can see from the bootstrap in talking about the page side, you know, we have 12. So we have column 12, that is a full page row. And in that we can have column 9 and column 3. So 3 plus 9 making 12. So this tells you that I am dividing the page into around 70% and now 30%. Okay, now 70% is a column 9, the 30% here is a column 3. Now in the column 9, we want to display this an admin header. This is a component that we have created. Aside from that, we have the breadcrumb, and that's going to display, give you the link that you can click on it to go to the next component. Okay, and that's exactly what we are doing in here. Now in that, you see we have the background color that we are specifying in here, and that we need to specify the breadcrumbs, and this is going to be a dictionary of what string. And let's see, from this edit form we have this model as user model, and in that is what we need. We need the username, full name, email address. Then we want to select the policy, so here we're going to loop to the policy and now get selected. Aside from that, we have a confirm password, so user pass and a confirm password, and that is what we are doing here. Okay, so aside from that, we have the generic spinner. Now this spinner is going to toggle between the actual button and this spinner. If I click on this button, I want to show this spinner. Okay, this spinner is just a loading button, and to tell the user that something is going on, so you should wait. and that's what we're going to use the loading. So when you set this to true, that is where this spinner is going to work. Okay, now this spinner, you can specify the button class, and now here we specify it as access, going to be green. Like we have the test class creating account, so we wait while the account is being created. So creating account. Now apart from that, we specify validation summary, which gives you the order to display all the validation errors in that. Now when it comes to the section, you can see we have column 3. Now column 3, we are also adding banner in here. Okay, so column 9 we have in the form, column 3 we have the banner. Now you have the footer template displayed beneath, and now this is the footer that we've created, and want to use the footer in here. So before you use the footer, you make sure that you have the footer template either in column 9, either in the 3 session template or the 2 session template. Aside from that, we have our toast, and that's what we're going to be using to display message in here. We create a reference of it, passing the duration, and now this is a breadcrumb. So here we specify the home, and as the app/home, and the current context here, we don't want to give it a link, so to tell the user that this is an active page, so add new user. Now you want to get the user auth state because you're using this authentication state to get the user info or the principal. You create an instance of this user model for the edit form, and there is a loading to load or to hide and show the generic button. We have our policies, and in our policies we having 3 policies: admin, manager, and our user policy, so the user can select while creating the account. Okay, now here we are specifying a hub connection. So the service that we injected, we create a hub connection. Now when the page initializes, we're going to start the hub connection, so we're going to subscribe to that and assign this connection to the service or the hub connection from the service. If I click on register, it's saying this is what I want to do. So I want to delay for 30 seconds. Then I want to call the endpoint. After that, I want to save this data to the activity, and in that, you can see we want to get the current user who is creating an account. That's going to be the admin. You want to get the name, or that is the ID, and you want to specify the method called, the description, and the operation state and now date. Aside from that, we check if the flag response from the create account here is success, display this toad in the success toad. If it is not, then show error as that. Okay, when the page initializes, you see here we are checking if the custom claim has this managed user, because before you can have access to this component or this component, you must have managed user to true. So if it is admin, it's only admin which has this managed user to true. Now for manager is set to false, but manager can update user. So if you are set manager to false and you want to access this content, you want to navigate to this access denied. Okay, so we subscribe to the password state and now the generic state change as we invoke in their respective classes. Now this is where we subscribe to the hub connection, and I need to see, so as soon as this method get called, anytime that this method get called, when we notify or when this notify method got called from the hub connection, then we want to call this method. Now calling this method is going to execute this. Okay, now this we are invoking this active orders count. So when a client make an order, this method is going to get called because it's going to notify this, because this is going to subscribe. You're subscribing to the connection that we created, or the hub that we created, and as soon as this get called, it's going to raise this method. Now this method is going to invoke the state or the service that we created, and now when invoking, it's going to now call the query again, and I'll get the current order and I'll display it on the screen. Okay, now that is what we are doing in there. So there are tabs in here for admin home header. There are these tabs that we need to communicate to our component. Example here is processing, the others, and you can see we are going to get a count, and now they are found in here. Now in order to click on that, and that page can navigate to the component or the product page whereby you can have access to the list. That is where we need to add the state buttons. So if you see the service that I created in here, we have this admin or the URL, and it is pointing to this product and /others. So that is where it is going to navigate up to product/others. Now we're going to check if the state here it is an admin. We want to navigate to the admin URL, that's the URL in here. Then we're going to specify the state name here. So if the state name here is going to be, let's say if it is processing, we're going to have /processing. It means that this processing is going to be the parameter that we're going to be using to search for order with a state of what? Processing. if it is delivering, they're going to search for other state of delivering, which has we're going to have the other state of delivering where all others have that state. Okay, so we're going to make a solely search based on that state that we specified. Now here you can see that we have the password type change, and that's going to be the button that we need to click. So if I click on this change password type, you want to invoke this method inside the state that we created. And now when the page runs, we're going to dispose it. So the state that we injected or we added in here, subscribed, we have to unsubscribe when the page is disposing. And now from this method, state change password type, this can be found in the password state. You can see here it's going to be as an anchor link, and in that you have it as what? Show. So this is a show or display test. So this is display test. We can click on. There's going to be a button that we can click, and when you click, we are invoking the method in the state that we created. Okay, which is going to affect this. Going to change the type of this into test. So it's going to toggle the type of this from test to password, and now from password to test in that format. Okay, so that's the way to work with the account. Now let's save this. Now let's have a look on the manage user page. So here, create a component and I name it as manage user page. Now this page is responsible for displaying all users and with their roles, not even their roles, with their claims, because you know role could be an admin, could be manager, could be user. Aside from that, you have extra claims such as read, create, update and delete, right? So we want to get these claims in addition to the user details and then display it. And I want to make it possible for the admin to update it, to change the claims. So we have it in here. Now if we take a look, we are using 2-session template, and that is column 12. And aside from that, we have the footer template, and it's passing the footer. So we are displaying the footer down here as well. Now in that, we check, you can see we are specifying our breadcrumbs, and now here there's a home, and now that's a link. We have the current page as managed users. In that, we have this modal. That is what you're going to be using to update the user info. Okay, so when you check this, we have this auth state, and that is to get the user states and also add all the principal and all the claims with it. Now we're also subscribing to the hub connection because we're going to be displaying the same buttons on top, and that is the admin header. You're going to be displaying this on top, so we need to subscribe to the connection so that as soon as there's a change in it, it gets affected and gets rendered. Alright, aside from that, we specify our rows because we have to populate our rows. Since you're going to be changing the row, we have to add a row down here. And now here we want to get a list of users with claims, because here we want to view all users with their claims. So we have to create an enumerable and then get it. And now once you have this property, it tells you that we need to call the service that we created. Now when the page initializes, we want to check if the manage user claim is set to true. That is where you want to let the person access this. In case it is false, then go to access denied. We're going to subscribe to this. We call this to get the list from this get users with claims. And now we're going to subscribe to the connection. Now we're also going to call the same thing whilst we call the get active orders to get a current count. Okay, aside from that, if manage user clicked, we want to adapt it, then we want to open model. So here we want to open the model and enable edits. So here, and now if I click on close model, you want to change user claim. You want to clear it, and also you want to set this open as a model to false. If I click on update, that is save changes to the user, this is what you want to do. You want to await, then call the update async method from this, passing the model that we have populated, and now you want to save this to the activity. Okay, now the results coming here, if it is true, you want to show with the claims, and now call the list again. In case it is false, then that's why you want to display this error. Alright, now that is the state button. That is when a button is clicked, a state is clicked from this page onto the others page, so we can have access to the filter. So we are filtering from the processing, the delivering, the delivered, and now the cancel state according to or related to each of the model. And now here we are getting users with claims. So here we're going to call this users.get this, and now we're going to try this now. And again, we are unsubscribing to this home generic. because when the page is disposing, you want to remove all subscription, and that is all. Okay, for now we have only one subscription being made in the initialize, so that's the reason why we need to unsubscribe as well. Okay, now let's check the UI. So from the UI, we have this column 12, we have this admin header, we have this breadcrumb. That's what we're going to specify for the active current or the current page. Now we're going to loop through the users, and in that we're using this mat3 view, and in that you want to specify the 3 view items. So we see from here that we need the row name, the email, the create, the update, delete, and now read. In that you have read, delete, update, create, email, and now row, right? Then the user management. So all this is going to be true, false, true, false. So use a boolean, we're going to switch between true and false. So email, you have the email down here. Create, is it true? Update, is it true? Delete, is it true? Read, is it true? User management, is it true? Okay, so it could be true, it could be false based on when creating this account for this specific user. All right, now if I click on update this, that's an edit. I call this manage user, and that is where we want to open the modal. Okay, then we start to edit that, and if I click on save, you know what it's going to do. Okay, so this is our modal that we have. Now we bind it to is open, so they're going to be off, true or false. True is going to show, off is going to hide it. Then we have this, the bootstrap class that I just added to beautify or to make this modal look nice and pretty. Okay, so you have this content, and in your content, you're specifying our title or our header. And now there's a button that we can click on. Now this button is a close modal, so this is just a X symbol, and that so tells you that close modal. So if you click on it, you want to call this method, and this method is going to set is open to false. Okay, and now when this open is set to false, then the modal is going to close. Okay, in that we have our edits, and that's the user change user claims. When you click on it, it is what you want to call it. In that you can see we want to display this as select, so you want to provide a select drop down for, that is the create, drop down for update, drop down for delete, drop down for read, and a drop down for row, and also we have the drop down for what again. Okay, so that's the drop down for this row. Okay, and in that you can see we are checking if the row here it is a manager, you want to set this option as selected. If it is the admin, you want to set this as selected. If it is this and that, so that's what you've done in here. Okay, now from this section down here, you want to check if the user or the manager is set to true. You want to get it down here, so we want to have the state of this manager user against that specific account or the specific user that you want to edit the info. And now here we have the generic, that is when loading is set to true. It's going to have this loading symbol in the button, and now there's the actual button that is going to submit or click on save to call this method. Okay, so that's what we are doing. This at toast that you're doing. You have a duration of 3000 seconds, and that's an icon that we are specifying. You create an instance, and based on the instance, that is where you're going to have access to the show message and the hide and error, show error message, and all the endpoint in this service. Okay. Now, aside from creating this, the next thing I'm going to do here is the activity page. So we see user management activity. Here we are using the same mat3 view. We get the list from here, and now when you check this, you can see we have the same thing specified. We subscribe to the connection, then we want to get the activities from here, because here we are grouping it. So we want to get the grouping from here. Then when the page loads, we want to call this method. We're going to get all the activities. When the page initializes, you want to check if managers are set to true. That is where you want to display this. I want the person to land on this page. Now in that we subscribe to this hub connection, and now when a method is called, when any method is called through the hub, you want to call this method to get this active orders. Okay, now state button is also done, and that is where if I click on any button from this admin header, it's going to handle that. I've gone through this already, so I not to go through again. All right, now when you go to the UI, it is just very simple. We have this Netcode-Hub breadcrumb, as you can see, or we've done this already. Then we have our mat3 view, and that's where we are specifying the tree view in here. So this is the date, and then we want to change it to the format. We have the operation title, the operation description, executed by, and now the success state. So we specify each property down here, and that is exactly what we are doing. Okay, so you can now save this. So now that we are done with this, we can go ahead and create our assets in the component, and that's very simple. Let's now click on this. Sorry, we want to display this and in here. So maybe we can display something like this as an assets denied. So unless sorry, you do not have assets, very simple one. Then we have our footer template display down there. Okay. Now aside from that, we have our generic spinner. So this is a button that we have, and I either it's a button that we specify with a class that we can specify down here, and now with the text we can also specify the text in there. Okay, and it's a spinner button. So this is what you're going to be using, or we'll be using in the pages when you click on the button. This is what you want to show. Okay. Now the next one that I'm going to talk about here, it is when we have a look at our add user component, you have this admin home header. What actually does this component contain? Let's see. So from that, create a component and I name it as admin home header, or any name at all that you want to give it. Now you see from here, all that you're doing here is you're having some buttons, and this is a button that we have. The first button here is processing, delivering, delivered, cancel. So these are the state of orders that we can we want to display. Okay, so these are buttons, and at these buttons we want to display the count of it. So you can see we have this processing count, we have this delivering count, we have delivered count. Okay, and now we have that's a cancel count. Now when each button is clicked, what you want to do, you want to navigate to the orders component and now make a sort or a search, and now display only orders which have the specific clicked count. Okay, the example is if I click on delivered, I want to filter with delivered only. So we have the buttons in here, and now the state that we created, we want to invoke the state and now pass in the count. And now is it admin? So this is true because this is for admin header, so we pass in through as an admin. So this is going to get everything from the orders table, and I will call that query to get the list or the count here, and I return. So that's exactly what we are doing in here. And now when you have a look here, you can see we have the same thing down here for each of them. Okay, now if I click on this, let's see. So for this page, we have to initialize it, or we have to subscribe to this admin state, because that is an admin active state that we created. We have to subscribe to this, and now when the page loads up, we want to get a current count, so we need to invoke it ourselves, get active orders count. Now when we invoke this, it's going to call the query, and the query is going to execute the handler to get a current count. And now when it does that, it's going to invoke it. So when you invoke it, we have subscribed to this page, and this page is going to get re-rendered. And now when it gets re-rendered, we're going to see the current count displayed down here. Okay, so when you click on it, it's going to get it done, and when the page loads, it's also going to get it done. And now when the page is disposing, we have to unsubscribe from this. Currently this count has no use, so we can remove this count from here. Great. Alright, so that is an admin count. Now let's save it. Now let's go to the same client header, or that's the home header. So the same thing applies to the client, and now in the button, we specifying here as false because this is not an admin, so it's a client, so we specify it as false, and it's the same thing that we are doing. But when you have a look here, we have to call this method, and now we need to pass in the client or the user ID. So we can extract it from this user or state, get the claim type of name identifier, that's the value of it, and now pass it on to this method. So it can be called, can execute the handler, whereby this handler needs the user ID and now get a specific state based on that user ID, and I return it. Okay, so that's exactly what we are also doing it in here. Alright, so we have that, and it's the same thing that we are doing. We're creating the buttons of it, and now that is all. Okay, so we have an admin header and a home header created. Let's have a look with that banner. Now what is a banner? The banner here is just a row that displays the other admin total amount of orders product. Here we are executing a query for this, and now you want to display that in the box on our home page or any other page at all, because we're going to be using this often. So we can be using this as a banner in all the component or the layout. So here we're going to convert it into a two string, since it's going to be the decimal. We're going to format the state or the style of it to have this comma separated with thousands. Okay, now that is the gross product order. And now when you go to the next one here, the same div, which has the only today. We want to specify only today. Then when you check the next one here, it is we have the percentage. So we're going to have client today orders percentage, the toString, and now we're going to convert into the percentage, add the percentage symbol down here, and I will display that in there. So from there we have the next card, and now this is for just admin total amount of product ordered for last month. So we have it in here. So this is what something simple that I created to fill up those small spaces in there. So you can actually sit down and plan what you want to display there, get a query or create a handler for that, create query and a handler for that, and I'll code it and I'll display them in here. Okay, now when you check the last one we have, let me view this. Yes, the last one that we have for the admin, it is the admin gross product quantities ordered. So we have the admin section here, and now we have the client section. So when you have a look here, you can see this. Before you can have access to this, you must have in the policy of administration policy. So admin or manager can see this. And also when you have a look with this, this is going to be the user policy. So user can also see this. And now with this, client total means you're going to specify, it's the same thing, but here we are going to specify the client ID to retrieve it. We're not going to retrieve everything. We're going to calculate from the from making a query based on the client ID. Okay, that's what we have in here from the client total amount of ordered product. Then aside from that, we have the next one, the same thing as discussed earlier on. So client only today's ordered product, we have that in here. Then we have the client total amount of it as well. We have the percentage also displayed down here, and we have the client gross product quantities ordered. Okay, now when you check the code section, so you know when you come here, you can see we are creating some properties here. That's what we're going to use to hold that. And now this is for the admin, this is for the user, and this is for the admin. We are also creating properties for the admin. So it is the same, just that here I changed the name a little bit. Okay, and you know when the page initializes, we want to call default load. Now in the default load, we want to get this user. So getting this user, we want to check if the row is equal to user. It tells you that the current user here, it is an admin. The current user, it is a normal user, not an admin. Okay, so in that we want to specify the ID of it, and I'll pass it on to this query. But in case the row here it is equal to admin, then it tells you that this section is being executed by an admin, or that's administration, which contains the row of admin and now the manager. And in that we are not specifying any user ID. We can call this and I get all others without passing in any user ID in here. So we are checking, we are toggle between a client and also a manager. Okay, shop and now the administration. That is what we are doing. Okay, so as soon as we get the service from this user order service or the user orders, we want to call this get client session. And now this get client session is going to get all these from, there's going to extract all these from the orders that we have. So this is what I did to get the percentage and to get the whole lot. So this is just a simple mathematics that I did, okay, to get the percentage, to get the sum and all stuff. Okay, the same thing applies to the admin section, and we are doing the same thing, but just that here I just tweak this from the user orders to admin orders, because admin orders contains all the orders in the database, but user orders contains the order related to this specific user based on the ID that we use to query. Yes, and that is what we are having in here. Good. So now once you're done with our this order, what's the next thing that we can do? We need to create a graph. Now this graph, we need a loader. Since we're going to render that statically, you want to not actually statically, we're going to render that using the stream rendering mode. And in that you want to have some skeleton, that's the structure of it to get displayed while the content gets loaded. So in that we're using this SF skeleton from the Syncfusion, and now we're using the square. It looks like the graph. Okay, we have this text vignette down, long one, then we have this square on top, like a simple histograph, and that's what we are using as a skeleton to display that. And in that, the next thing we're going to do here is we have only left with the home page graph. Now home page graph, we are using the chart. So what chart are we using from here? You know, we having let's say we have in this column of 12, that's for the whole page, we have of a card. Then when you check, we have 2 charts in here. Now we want to get the chart type. Maybe this is the colors that you want to specify for the chart. Aside from that, we have this enumerable for get product ordered by a month response DTO, and it's also have the get ordered product with quantity response DTO. So we've created queries for this, and now we're going to create this list to handle these queries. Okay, so when the page loads up, you see when the page initializes, we want to get the user, and I want to specify the user row and the user ID from here. Now once we have it, what is the next thing that we can do? We're going to be getting this response or the service from the database. So in that, we have to get the rows from here. So we're checking if the row is equal to admin. From this get chart data 1, we're going to create a scope, and aside from that, we're going to get the service from this, and in that we need to execute this get product ordered by a month. And now here we're going to check if this row is equal to admin. We pass in null, because if it is admin, then we don't need to filter that. But in case it is not admin, then that is row, that is user. And in this case, we have the user ID specified down here, up here, and now we can use the user ID in here. So we are creating this, we are getting these user values and are keeping them for future use. And this is the first usage that we are doing. Get chart 2, we're going to also do the same. So that is a get product with quantity ordered query. Now in that we specify if it is an admin, null, and if it is a user, specify the user ID in there, and I'll call this query. And this query going to execute the handler for us to get what we want. Okay, so when you go to the home component, this is what we have in here. We have a home template. This is supposed to be template, not home template. It's supposed to be a template, right? So home template, and aside from that, you want to activate the following component. So these are sections that you want to do it. So this is an activate footer template, activate home section column 9 template, column 3 template, and that is a home header template. So it's going to enable this for you to see. And in that we need this authorized view, and in here we need to specify the admin home header, and that is the header template, because here we are activating the header template, so we can now go ahead and use the header template. Aside from that, we have in this home header, we have the client header, and now here is going to be seen by user, and that's going to be seen by an admin. Okay, aside from that, we have this home section column 9 template. Then in that, you specify the home page graph, and from the section column 3, we have the banner displayed in there, and we have the footer down there, and that's where we are specifying the footer in the footer template. Okay, so this is what we have in here. Now we get the user service or the user info from here. We have a hub connection created, and as usual we're going to subscribe to the hub service. Now aside from that, when the page renders, you want to have this simple method in here. Now what it's going to do here is going to save a key to a local storage, and now remove it as well, in order for it to get reload. As I said earlier on, for our JavaScript to work well, this in the previous stage, so there are some background things that we need to configure for it to work efficiently for us, and this is one of them. Okay, so we have that, and now there's a call when notified, and that's the method that we're doing. State button also specified in here. If I click on others, if I click on a button, that is a button in the admin home header, then you want to execute that in there. Okay, so that's what we are doing in here, and now we want to pass in the state, so we pass in the other URL and now the state. So we have the client order, we have the admin order. Now this component is going to be used by, this home page is going to be used by both admin and our user. So that's the reason why we have this client order URL and we have this admin order URL, so that it can be switched between this and that. Yes, so that's what we have. When the page disposes, we want to unsubscribe from the state change from this home generic service that we have with the event that we created. So that's what we need to do from the home page, because the home page is very simple. Okay, all that you're doing there is to make reference to your component that you have created, and that is all. Okay, so now that we are done with this, the next thing we're going to do to conclude this video is to create our product, our location, and our orders, and the product page. And I need that it can be found in here. So create a folder and I name it as orders in the content, and in that orders, let's start creating our component in there. Alright, so now that we are done with this, we're going to tackle the product. That is the real interface, that the main interface for this project. The category, the location, the product, and now the others component. So we need to create these 4 components so we can perform CRUD on this. Okay, now let's go in there. So you can see, create a folder and I name it as product. And in that, we have category, we have location, we have other. Aside from that, I have product details and I have product page. So product page, that is a home page for the product. This page enables you to add product. Now if I click on this product page, this page allows you to add product as I said earlier on, and we are using this SF grid. That is where we're going to use the Syncfusion. So in order to use this SF grid, you have to first register the Syncfusion license. So to do that, you go to your program.cs file, that is in the web UI, and now in that you have to register syncfusion.licensing.syncfusionlicenseprovider.register. So you can pass in your license. This is my own license, so I'm not going to show it to you. That is a fact. So you can just register online and to the Syncfusion site, and I get your own free community license, and I'll pass it on in here. Okay. Now aside from that, we need to add Syncfusion Blazor. You need to add this as well. Okay, Syncfusion Blazor, you need to add this. Good. Now let's go back to the product page. So once you're done, you see that from here we have just a row with a card, and now you have a button on top which tells you create product button click. So you're going to create product. Now we are using this Netcode-Hub model package. Okay, so you want to pop up the model which enables us to create product. Now we have this Syncfusion grid, and that's where we provide the source. Okay, so there is the list of the product that we have in database. There is where we retrieve it and I'll pass it on in here. Now this SF grid supports a lot of features and allow you so much. It supports pagination, sorting, allow Excel export. Then I have a custom style as well, allow grouping, allow PDF, toolbar, you can also specify toolbar, selection, resizing, and a lot. Okay, now in that you have a page size of 5, so it means that we want to display the page size. So from the page size, it's supposed to be 5. It means at a time we are displaying 5 products at a time. You can increase this to any number of your choice, depending on the view that you have. Aside from that, we have selection settings. You can set this to single, and then there's a handler for this toolbar that we provide in here. Okay, if I select something, a row, this is going to get called, and I'm going to have this set. Okay, now this is a custom style, not a custom style, custom template. So I want to specify an image in here, and I want to use this image tag with a 64 string base of the image. Specify the following as width and height. Now these are also the other columns that I'm going to specify from the product model or this DTO. We have date up to the quantity. We specify that as well. There's the quantity. There's the category, and we have the location. So here you can see we are using navigating to this location component or the location model and retrieving its name. We added that already in our handler, so we can get it straight away from here. Okay, now let's see when you go to, so let me just show you everything. So that is this one. You see it? Yes, so that's everything. And now from this we also have a search bar on top, and now this search bar, as soon as the value changes, I want to call this method. Okay, so to make a search, and let's see, when I come down here, we have the model set in here. This model is coming from Netcode-Hub. As you can see from this, that's my model that I created. Now this model is bound to open, and in that I made a custom. Now this model is very flexible. You can customize the model to suit what you want. Okay, for now I'm using a single model for dual purposes. Now I can show product, or I can use to show product to add or update product. The same time I can also use to show confirmation product. No, that's a confirmation. So do you want to delete product? I can confirm as well. It's the same model, but I can use it in a dual way. So that's the flexibility of this component. Now in the modal, you can see we have this the bootstrap class that you can specify in here. Aside from that, this is the content, and here I am having two ifs. And the first one is here is showing the product for add on update. The second one here is showing for confirmation. So this is a confirmation view that I created. Okay, so I confirm product deletion. If you want to do this, then a button is down here, and I want to click on this button. This is going to get caught. Now if I show this two, so it means that you have to show one at a time. Now if I show product here, it has the product stuffs. You see there's an edit form which takes in the product name, serial number, and a lot. Okay, so all the property that we specify in the product model, we are doing it in here. Now this is the selection where we can select the category in here, and also we can specify location as well. So that is exactly what we are doing in there. Okay, now when they come down here, you can see we have the generic button, and we've spoken about this already, so I assume you know what you're talking about. And that's also the image. So I want to display image as soon as I select that. And now with this image, I am not using just an input file component from the Blazor. I'm using my own customized one. You know, I have a package known as the advanced file upload. Now this package gives you a progressive view while the file is being uploaded. Okay, and it gives you base default string straight ahead. So you don't need any code at all to convert this to base default string. It is already converted, so you can just use this straight ahead and then go your way. That's very nice. And if you actually want to also retrieve the file itself, it is also possible. You see, so this package is very nice, and you can use it with ease. Let's see how to go about that. Now in where we need, you can see we are using this Netcode-Hub file upload. We have installed the package already, if you remember. And here we're making a reference to this as file upload component. And now this notification here tells an event callback which stays in the file model. Now this file model comprises of the iBrowser file, that's the file itself, and a base default string of the image file. Okay, so you can convert this image. So if it is image, this file upload comprises, you can use it for any of the files. Okay, talking about videos, PDF files, images, and etc. But here, if you want to set up, if you want to get an image, that is where you can convert it to base default string. So if it's an image, you can now retrieve the base default string. But if it is a video, you cannot do that because video does not support the base default string. Okay, this file here, or this component, does not support base default string of an image, a video. It supports only image for now. So you know, and now this is a required extension. So maybe in the file that you want to upload, you want to specify some specific extension that you want to upload. I made it also possible for you. So you know, we have this required extensions, and when they come down here, we have this required extension at the bottom in there. Let me show you up in here. So this is a required extension, and I know here I need JPG and now PNG. So that's a required extension. It's a list of string, and that is exactly what you need to provide in there. So you can see this is very nice and very simple as well. Now here we're going to call the method, and now we're going to retrieve the base default string and also the iBrowser file of an image that you're going to upload, or any file at all that you're going to select using this component. Okay, now that that is all for this. So it's just a model that we can actually add products and also update product. Now aside from that, we have this section, so you can confirm product before you delete it, and that is what we are doing. So if I go through with you, let's see what it entails. You know, we have that, and you have the model that you can close it up. Aside from that, it asks, I want to delete this, and aside from that, you see we have this button. If I click on this, I want this to spin, and it tells you that deleting, so please wait, keep waiting while the process is taking place from this method. Okay, and that is the end of this model. Okay, so you know, in our template for this, you know, we are having this two section template. We have column 12, and now we have the footer. So this is a column 12. We have the footer down here. Aside from that, we also specify this admin header. Now this admin header comprises of the tags such as the processing, the delivered, the delivering, so you can make a specific query in the product or in your orders. So it is also possible in here. We have our breadcrumb, and as you know, we have it specified down here. And in this, we can specify background color, activated color, and add the deactivated color as well. So this is going to be an dictionary, it's a dictionary, or string, that's the key, and then the value, and then that's where we've done that already. So you know what it's going to do, isn't it? Yes. Okay, so now let's go to the code section and see what we're going to do. So we have the model title. We want to set a model to be dynamic since we're going to be using for confirmation of delete product and also adding product or updating product, we need to dynamically set the title, and that is exactly what we're doing here. So when you go to the modal itself, we are making a reference to that component. Modal, you see from the title, we're making a reference in here where actually is it. So if I show you this is a modal content, and here we have title, and that is the modal title. You can see we have the modal title here. So this modal title is going to be used for update and now adding of product. So it's going to change dynamically when adding product and also when updating product, and that's what we have in there. Okay, we have SF grid, which takes in the t value of this get product response DTO, and these are hope we have our toast as well. Then we have this a custom style. We have a string key here as a search. That's what we are using to handle the search in the input tag. Okay, then we have our file upload. So we have to pass in this as a reference to our file upload that we specify. Now you see we are also doing the same thing to the toast. So all the components, you have to specify the reference to that. And actually we have the reference. So where actually is the reference? So we have a file upload. When you go to the show product, this is where you have the reference. So this is a Netcode-Hub file upload, and that's the reference that we are creating in here. The same thing applies to using the toast. So you have to also specify the reference as well. That's what you see. Good. So from there we have this show product page, and that is going to toggle between the section in the modal. You can see that in the modal we have show product and now show confirmation, right? So you're going to toggle between them. We have the same thing for the confirmation, and this is our breadcrumb. This is our toolbar. So this toolbar, as soon as the page loads, you want to call a method to load this defaultly, and we're going to be doing that. Okay. So maybe let's see this. We can simplify this. Okay, so there's no need, we can move on. So we have our loading duration and it's open. This is for the toast, this is for the generic, and this is for the modal. Okay, we want to get the user state from the principal to get user authenticated and retrieve all claims. It's possible from this authentication state. Then we have a list of variables to hold the location, product, permanent product, and all this. The reason why I have this permanent product here, it is maybe you're asking yourself, if I have permanent product, what am I going to be having temporary product? Yes. No. So you have this permanent product, you have this product. Now the reason is, we're going to make a search. We've created our own search tool. Now this search tool, we want to actually, when the page loads, you want to hold all the product lists in one component or in one variable. Then when we make a search, we have to get the search product into another variable and display. We don't want to clear the old one, because if the user clicks on clear to return all the product, by then you might have cleared the old content, or the old product. So doing this, you're not going to get the rest of the content. And we don't want to be calling services all the time. Services need to be called when it's necessary. So we have to create another variable in here. That's what I'm doing. Create another variable here to hold the old or entire data and now sort it or make a search. So anytime the user wants to get to the entire product or the entire data, just go to the permanent one and it's going to have it in there. So all the time this product is going to hold the filter of this. We have a category, going to hold the category list. Location going to do same. This our modal, which is going to be used for entering the product. Then we have our principal set in here, and this is coming in from this auth state. We have a hub connection, as you can see, because we've created the services, so we need to use it. We create an instance in here. Now when page initializes, we call this hub connection. We bound it to this event that we created. You can see we are also calling this, as you can see from that end, we're doing the same thing in here. So I must skip this. Now we have this get default and load to by item. So these are methods that's going to call as soon as the page renders. Now from the next one, you can see state button click. We've done this already. If I click on any state button like processing this, I want to make a filter, delivering, delivered, and based on the order, it has to send me to this other component, and I'm passing the state name, okay, as a reference, as a route, and I can retrieve in there from this parameter set async, and I can use that beautifully. So we want to get a default, and that's why we are calling it in the initialize async get default. So what are these default? What does this method and hold? Get product, get categories, and then get location. So this get category, we have to call this category query from the query that we created. Okay, we call that. We create a scope and I record it. Now we get location, we do same. Get product, we do same. Then when you get the product, we're going to assign this product that we end here to the permanent. So we're going to have two variables in here holding the same data. Now product is going to be used for the filter. Permanent going to hold the entire content or the entire data. Load two bars. So we are loading two bars. Now here we are specifying here maybe this is what we are doing. Can delete. It is whereby you want to filter. I want to make a restrict from manager and admin. Admin can only delete. Take note, a manager cannot delete this. So you want to make sure if manager has the right or has the property of manage or can delete, or delete is set to true, that is only when it can see this two bar item. So that's why we are extracting this from the list that we have in here. As for this rest, manager can see it, and the manager is allowed to work with any of this, okay, except the delete. So this is limited to the manager, to the administrator. Now if I click on open modal, yes, set this to true. So that is what we have in there. Great. Now when you check here, we also have create product button click. That is when button is clicked. I want to create product. Then you want to reset modal display. You want to set the custom title, the modal title as you know already. You want to set the custom style to position the modal in the middle. Then show product page, and now set this to empty, and now open modal. So this reset modal here is going to set show. You can see we have these two properties here: show product page and now show confirmation page. Now show product page, as soon as I click on reset modal display, it's going to set everything to false. Then we have to set this to true. That is the related or the specific variable that you want to use. So you set this to true in here. Close modal, close, set this is open to false, and I'm going to get it closed. Now we want to extract, we're going to be using update and now add in the same modal. So we have to get the property, a variable, to hold the ID separately. So anytime that you want to get the property, get the ID, we come to the property and now retrieve it. And that is exactly what I did in here. Have this ID holder as a independent. So it stays in here and I hold the ID that you're going to assign. Save product, what is it doing? We delay for 30 seconds, 3 seconds. Then we create a response in here. Then you can see we are going to switch between update and now delete. So we're going to check if the ID here is not equal to g.empty. Then we want to say that, well, it is an update because ID here is not equal to empty. It's an update. So we'll execute this update command. But in case it is empty, then execute this create product command. In that we want to track it, so we assign this. We save the content here to the activity data table. Okay, then we check the response and now display toast, as you can see, respectively. Aside from that, we are here retrieving the content, and that's where we retrieve the content from the Netcode-Hub file upload. So with this file upload, this is what we're doing. We can check from incoming file. If it is null, return. But in case it isn't, since you can specify multiple file uploads, you can you need to loop through it. Okay, so loop through this iBrowser file, and now we can get it from here. So here we can search from a key and now with value. Now the key here comprises of the file name, and the value comprises of the if it's an image, the base default string. So we are also getting it here, and now since this component is supporting only one, we can get the value from here straight ahead, and we can now move ahead with it. So that is exactly what we are doing in here. Then category selection change and allocation selection change. So if I click on change this, if I select a category, if I select location, that is what I want to call. And now this is going to get the ID of it and set it to the property that we created in here. Okay, that's the object and the location ID and a category ID respectively. Good. Now if I click on Excel, export, PDF, print, view, that's what we have in here. So this is very simple, right? And I can see you can read it yourself. So read it, and the meaning the meaning is also, even the endpoint used here is also very simple. It's clear and readable. So export to Excel, export to PDF, print. So you know to explain this, these are the endpoints coming from the grid. Okay, that's SF grid. Now that is, if I want to view this, I want to go to product details. I want to specify the product ID, and in there we're going to using parameter change. Okay, so when the parameter changes, you want to get the ID, and I make a search from the database and now display that content. And that's what we are doing. If I click on add, I want to open modal. If I click on edit, I want to check this if row is selected because before a user select to edit, you have to click on the row first before you can click on edit. So if you click on edit without selecting row, then I want to call this method to check. So this method will check, but in case it is true, meaning row selected, then you want to reset all model, because here you want to hide, or you want to set show product page to false and also show confirmation page to false. Then you want to set the custom title under the position, set the title to what update product. Then here we're going to use the map star to map it, the model, to the selected product. Then we're going to set the ID in here, then show product and open model. So this is going to have this is going to load the data from database, and I'll set it into the view that we can edit it ourselves. Okay, but in case it is delete, then we want to also check if it is selected, row is selected, then reset the model as usual and show confirmation. So here you're going to show, I just want to do this. If I click on yes, that's a confirmed delete. This is going to happen. Wait for 3 seconds, execute this delete command, and I'll save it to the activity table. Check the response, and I'll display the those respectively. The same thing applies to that's the check row selected. So you can see from here, when we check that the ID here is equal to empty, it just says that row is not selected. But you know, here we want to delete for, we want to set the duration for 2000 milliseconds, that is 2 seconds. To tell the user that, whoa, no row selected. Okay, so the user will now select row. And here we also have this get response, and that doesn't be the selected product. So if I click on the SF grid row select, this is what I want. I want to assign this selected product to the data coming in. Now this data here is coming in as a get product response. That's the reason why we have this get product response. So the same thing. So I can directly assign the data, the output here, as an input to this. Then this is where the search comes in. If I type in anything or a word in the search input tag or the element, you know, when we bound an onChange event to it. So when onChange event is being called, this is a method that's going to get called. And then that we're going to trim it, because maybe we're going to trim and remove all spaces before and at the end to it. Then we're going to check. So you can see we have this permanent here contains the entire data. Now product is going to hold the filter. So we're going to set from here where it contains name, serial number, description. Okay, so we have serial number here twice, right? So where it contains serial number. Yeah, so we have to remove one. Then we convert it to a list and I'll return. So maybe we need to, yes, to a list and return. Then here you're going to, there's a way to reset the model. So set everything to false, and now custom style also set to false. And now when the page disposes, we need to unload, or we need to unsubscribe from this home generic state. That gives you access to the state object, and this state object is whereby you have the states like the processing, delivering, delivered. As soon as I click on each of the state, it has to navigate me to the others page, and now for me to get what I want, okay, based on the state that I selected or I click. So that's the product page. Now you know, from here we click on view. Now if I click on view, it is navigating us to product details. So we have to create a component, and I name it as product details. You have to set it as this route. So that's the reason why I created one component down here. So you to do same product detail, and this product detail, this is the route, and this is the ID that we specify it here. It is authorized to only administration policy. So this means manager and our administrator can only have access to this component. Now aside from this, you know, we have this product detail, we have the same thing, admin header, we have this breadcrumb also display in there. And if product is not equal to, if ID is not equal to empty, we want to display this. Okay, but before we do that, we need to call the service. So let's see, from the code section, we are calling service down in here. You know, when the parameter changes, we want to check if this is not equal to null. You want to execute this query, and I get the product by ID. You see this? And that is how we can display that in there. But in case it is null, then go to home. This won't be null, but at least we have to set it in here for sake, in case in some day in the near future it becomes null, then we want to go home. But it won't. Trust me, it won't. Okay. Then here, the next thing that we are doing here is, you see, we have the breadcrumb as you know already. We have the state also created as an object, and that's an ID stated in here. That's what we're using it as a parameter. Okay. Now here, when the page initializes, what are we doing? We are also subscribing to this. That is the service from our Hub connection. We subscribe to this, and also when anything is called, we also want to call this method, and I get a count, in case there's any options or any update from a client. Okay, so we are making our application flexible that whatever page that the administrator or the manager is, when a client makes an order, a request, it has to show. So that's the reason why we are subscribing to each of the service in all the components. But if you want to limit this to a specific component, there you can just clear all these subscription from each of the components and I'll maintain one. And when you do that, only that page, only when you are on that page, that is where you're going to have notification when a client make an order. If you are outside that component or that page and a client make an order, you will not see that unless you refresh the page before you can see. But I'm not sure that's a good idea, right? You want to make it versatile to all the components. So as soon as a client make a request, we can see that in all the components. Good. We have a state button. We know this already, so let me skip that. And now here, go home. You know, going up to this route to this component. And now when disposing, this is what we are doing down here. Okay, so that is all for this product detail page. Now, you know, when you check the UI again, you're using the 3-session template, and this 3-session template comprised of the column 9 and then column 3, making 12, right? So column 3 contains the banner, and that's the column 3 contains, where is it? This is the column 3. It contains this, and now with this we are displaying just and the image. So we display an image of the product. Aside from that, we're also displaying this, the serial number, we're displaying the category name, we're displaying the product price, then we are displaying the product quantity. Okay, so that's what we are using it for this column, the column 3. Okay, because this is dynamic, so we can modify the column anytime that we want, and that is exactly what we are doing in here. Okay, so and now when you go to the column 9 too, with the column 9, what we have here, it is also very simple. We have there's a button that we can close and navigate back to the home page. And here you can see this is the product detail that we're having. So we're going to display product name, product description, and product date added. Okay, and then maybe you can also display the product ID as well. So that's also what we are doing in the column 9. So column 9 has the data, column 3 has the data, making column 12 for entire row. Okay, so that is the product detail. Now what's left here, it is to check out the category and the location. Then we bring this video to an end. So before we go to the category and now the location, you know, we have to add the service of the Netcode-Hub data grid, the table that I created, just a table, a bootstrap table that I created. So we are going to add this service. Aside from that, we're going to add, maybe we can add local storage service. We've added that. We've used that. Have we used that? Yes, we've done that. Okay, so maybe local storage service, we have to add that in here. So I learned we are not using the local storage now. So for now we are not using it, so we can remove this from the program. Since we're not using it, that's the reason why we are using it. We are removing it. Okay, so maybe when the time arrives for us to use that, we come back and add it. But I'm not sure we're using local storage here. Maybe yes, we're not using it, so let's remove that. So now that we are done with the registration, the next thing that we're going to do here is let's go back to the category page. Now let's see how to work with the category. So from the category folder, you can create a folder and name it as category. We have this category page. Now this page comprises of displaying the products and also enabling CRUD operation. So you can create, you can delete, you can view it in here. Okay, so I created one component to handle everything in that, but normally you can also create a separate component to handle that. Now in here we are using this admin header. As you know, this we're using our breadcrumbs, default one, and as you know how to implement this, so it's the same thing. That's what we are doing in here. Okay, now aside from that, we have our a row from Bootstrap. Then we have the card, and now in card we are using this Netcode-Hub data grid. Now in there we can specify this as a CSS in there. Then we have our table row. So in the table row, this is what we have in here. And aside from that, we have our content template. Our content template here we specifying in case this category here is null, that is what we want to display. But in case it is not now, this is what you want to display in the content. We want to apply pagination as well from SyncFusion. So we also get in the list, and I will skip the value and I will take this value specified beneath. So we're going to do that. Now here I have this serial number here to give us a count of the current selected or current display list. So maybe 1, start from 1 and I'll move on with that. So you can see down here we're having this plus plus. We're going to add it to 1. We have our table row, and our table row we have our TD specified respectively in there. And then that the JavaScript file that we created, that is where we are integrating it. So you want to enable hover and maybe yes, increasing the font size as soon as the mouse is hovered on that specific item. Okay, so that's what we are doing. And now we specify this mouse, this event against this so this method name, again this event specified in here for each. So that is what we are doing in here. Okay, now when it is loading, this is what you want to display, processing. And also from our we have this the pager, and this coming to the footer. This is the pager, so the page size that I want to display here for the category is 10. Now there is the number of items that you want to display beneath 4, and we have the total count in here. Okay, this is a page reference, and now when item is clicked, this event going to get called. Okay, now when you check from the code section, we also have a confirmation email in here. This is an email. This is a confirmation dialog, and this is also going to allow you to confirm before you delete. Okay, so you know we can customize the model to display that, and also you can use the confirmation component created by Netcode-Hub, and you can also do that. So any of them, you can use it in your application. Now there's an action specified. Now this action gets erased anytime the user clicks on OK. That is confirmed. That's when this event gets erased. And now when it gets erased, then what you're going to do here is you can now specify your actions or your method that you want to delete the actual content in it. Okay, so in here we have this content template for our model, and as you know, we've done this earlier on. We have an edit form, and this edit form is giving only just a floating text. Floating text is coming from Netcode-Hub packages. Now this floating text enables you to update or validate the model as you type. So this is a progressive validation, and now we specify that way. So when loading is set to true, display this spinner, and now when it's set to false, it means we have this button to display. Click on save, and now it should get saved. Okay, so that's what we are doing. We have this for the pager, and now we have this for our confirmation and for our toast. Now in here from this we have a list of category specified down here, and now when it check we have this category model. Now okay, so we have this. Are we using this anywhere? Okay, so we are not, so we can remove that. This is not used, so maybe it was there for testing purpose. Okay, so I have commented this, so no worries. Now we have this hub connection, and now you know when the page initializes, that's what we do. We set up the hub connection. Now you know here it is we have category, and now from category, user cannot delete category. So maybe this allowed or this limited to the administrator. So you want to have can the user delete, and in here we get the user claim. We find out with the delete, is it true or false? So if it is true, it means the user can now delete. But in case it is false, meaning the user cannot delete this category. Okay, and we have subscribe to our hub connection. So when you check here, you know we have, let's go. You see we have this can delete. So if this is set to true, that is why you have only toggle delete. But in case it isn't, then display this. Now this delete here becomes, let's see, we are adding just a CSS style, and then the display is going to be none. And also when you have the icon, let's see, you can see display is also none. So that is if the user has no right, or the manager, this user here is manager but not an admin, then you're going to display the, in case an admin, this is true, then you're going to display this in here. And now we are not making the user's own clickable. We are making only the admin own clickable. So when you check it, you see this is clickable, so delete click, and now here we don't have any unclick event attached to this. That's it. We're going to have the icon, but we're not going to have any event attached to. Okay, and we're going to make it fade so that the user, you see that well, you don't have access to this. Okay, Now let's go to the next one. As for this, you know this already. That is, it's going to record when the hub is connected, and now when this method is being erased up in there. Okay. Now this is also for navigating to the order with the state, and also this is a get categories. So we're going to get all categories. Now toggle icons, we're going to invoke this method. That's the JavaScript method that we created. So we're going to invoke all these to activate the hovering. Now there's the open modal. Now if I click on create button, I want to open modal and I set the title dynamically. Close modal to happens this. Now save it, delay for 2 seconds, and now try to check if the ID is greater than 0. That means you want to update, then update it. In case it isn't, then go and add it down here. Okay, so we check the response and I display the toast respectively based on the success state. If there's an error, display this. If there's a success, then display that. Now here for the pagination, you can see that we bound this click event to this paginate, to this SF pager. So when you check this, you have this SF pager, we have this item click event, and now that is where we need to implement this event down here. So that's exactly what we're doing for this click. We want to skip and now take it, okay, and now we display to the user. Okay, so we have this ID holder, and that's going to hold the ID. If I click on edit any, I want to make sure I have this set to edit. Then I want to set the ID to this, then adapt or change the category, adapt it to map it to this category model, which is the DTO. Or if I click on delete, I want to also assign the same ID, adapt it, and I'll click on show this confirmation. Okay, so the confirmation here is going to pop up and I'll display. I just want to do this. If I click on confirm, then wait for a while, then execute this delete command, passing the ID holder, and now delete it. After that, assign this to the activity or save it. Now from that response, display the toast, as you can see from down here. Then when the page is dying up, that is disposing, we want to unsubscribe from the state change from this home generic state. Okay, so that's exactly what we're doing for the category. Now it's the same thing for the location. Okay, just that here you have to change wherever that you see category, change it to location, and that's exactly what we did. Okay, so it's very simple. Let's go through that, and quickly you can write through the product and also. So that is an order, and that'll be all. So from the location, it is the same thing that we are doing. You see that we have the same thing, column 9, and we have the same column 3 down here. They have a footer template specified in there, and now you see we have the same model specified, the same thing, this scenario, and everything is the same. Just that here, what we're going to do here is we are going to change this, create new category to create new location. Okay, and now we have to also call the location query. So see, we created this location query, we have to call this, and now we have to also call this add or save or update. So there's an update location, and we have the last one as well, create location. So we have to change this, and that is also the same thing that we are doing in there. If you have a look, you see the same. Delete, confirm, delete, and it is doing the same thing. Okay, so that is for the category. You just have to copy and paste that's for the location. You just have to copy and paste the category, and now just change a few things in there. Anywhere that it is category, you better change it to what? Location. Perfect, and that is all. All right, so let's go to the last one. That is an order. So the order. Okay, so the order page, let's have a look on that. So I have a component known as order. So create a component as order. We have an admin order, and now we have client order. Now admin order is going to display to the admin, and our client is going to display to the client, talking about the shop. Okay, so for shop, you can make an order. Now admin order can manage the order that our client has made, because when the client make an order, admin can decide to cancel the order or can set the state to delivering or can update it. Okay, now client can also do that, and here we're going to implement the red time, that is the SignalR, because client, as soon as client cancel the request or add request, it needs to get updated in the client request or the client dashboard. The same thing applies to the client dashboard. It's going to, as soon as an operation state is done, it's going to affect the client, and the client is going to see what the admin has done to the order that he created. Okay, so as we did to the product, the same thing applies here. Okay, order, you can see we are using the same admin home header, using the same Netcode-Hub breadcrumbs, we're using, and in that, let me show you everything. Yes, or even I can decide to make it in this form so you can see it well. I hope you love the star. But me, I hate the star. Okay, so that is it. Now aside from that, we have this SF grid. Now this SF grid is the same thing. So the same thing from that page, product page, the same thing that I copy and pasted, and now change the grid columns. So here we're using this get other response DTO. So we need to specify the properties in here, and that's exactly what we are doing in here. Okay, now here too, we are also displaying the state, if it is a processing, if it is an order, if it is a delivered, if it is a delivering, if it is cancelled, we want to display that in here, and that's exactly what we are having in here. Okay, now I want to check that this is also a modal, and the modal is also doing the same thing. So show update order, and also so here admin can update the order. Okay, because there's an admin order, so admin can update the order by selecting the state and also the date. Okay, so we are having down it here, selecting the state and now the date, and I click on save. As I click on save or update order, this is going to have set this loading to true, and I'm going to have the spinner, and I was going to say updating. Okay, maybe here we have a test because you're going to be loading this dynamically based on adding and updating. But well, you can just create it as saving, and if it is an update, you're going to save. If it is adding, you're going to also save that. Good. Now in that, we also have show other page. Now this show other page is where you're going to specify our confirmation. So this can also be using for delete, in case I want to cancel, in case I want to delete any request or order, it's going to be popped up in here. So let's have a look with the implementation of this. So with this, you see we have all the classes, and now the text or the variables used as a placeholder. So you see card body, we're going to customize our own input down here, what we want to display. If it's a delete confirmation message, you can pass it on in there. Then we have button, also display the button. We also have a custom name that you're going to, there's a dynamic name because we have a variable that is replacing the name, so we can gonna pass the name through this variable. Okay, so that's what we're having, and now we have this button in there as well. So this is a title also going to get changed. We have this variable to hold the title, and now we have this to close modal. Okay, now let's see the UI, the code section to understand this better. We have our Netcode-Hub tools, and as you know, we've done this already. We have our breadcrumb, so I'm not going to talk about this. We have this SF grid, so you know this already as well. Once you have the grid, you must specify the SF with the order or the model that is going to hold on. Then here you can see we have other message, so that's the variables that we created in here for this. That's where we state the properties in here, and we're going to set values to each when the need arises. We have our toolbar items, and now with the toolbar items, what we're doing here is we are going to load the toolbar items into the SF grid as we did in the that's the product. Okay, now in here too, we have temporary order, we have permanent order. So the same technique that we use in the product, the same thing, that's what we're using in here. We have a temporary and a permanent. Now we're going to make a search. So from that search, you want to push all the content or the data to one and hold it. That's going to be the, let's say, the database. We don't want to be calling the API or the service all the time. Once you have the data at hand, we can manipulate it any way that we want. Okay, so we have it in there. Then we have a hub connection to register when the page initializes, and that's what we are doing in there. Okay, now you call this anytime an action is being performed and order is made from the client. No matter where we are, we have to get the notification, and this is going to get us with that. Now also here is when if I click on if I click on the parameter state. Okay, so maybe from the home page, if I click on processing, I want to see all orders which have the tag of processing. Then that's navigates me to this page, and now set the processing. So in order to do that, you can see we are navigating, that's the on parameter set. We check from this order state param as a parameter, and now if it is not now, then we want to call state general method. Now this is a state general method, and in here we get the state name from the service. We get if it is an admin, and then we're going to navigate or going to look through the temporary orders, and I will set up to the permanent. So this contains a list set up to this, and I display this permanent orders in there. So you can see we are setting up the state, checking if it corresponds or any record that has the state of this, the one that is coming in, please do add it to the permanent, and I loop to the permanent and I display in the other list on the SF grid. Now the same thing that we did for the toolbar item handler, the same thing applies here. I hope you have remembered. Now if I click on cancel, this is what I want to do. First I want to check if row is selected, and you know that already from the product component. And now we have to set the position of this and set the title, the icon, the message, and etc. After that, we're going to open the modal because you want to cancel the order. So we need to show confirmation. I want to do this. So you have the title, confirm order cancellation, and here you have I want to cancel this order. Then aside from that, when the user clicks on yes, that is where we're going to perform this. But here we're going to say if the person clicks on update order, this is what you want to do. If the text equal to update order, then you want to reset everything and now try to pop up this modal so we can show this update order, and that the user can actually change the state or change the date. And now here it is only the admin who can update the order, not even the manager. Okay, what here is what user can do is that for the shop he can create an order and now cancel the order. Okay, so it's the admin who can delete the order or update the order. Okay, now in here when it comes to confirm update and the selected order ID is not equal to empty, then we are going to check if order is not cancelled. If it is cancelled, then display order cancelled. But in case it is not cancelled, then we are going to do this. And if order is not delivered, because you cannot cancel a delivered order, right? So we check if it is not cancelled, and if it is not delivered, then we are going to execute this cancel order command, and we're going to delay for 30 seconds. Then after that, we're going to add to the activity. Then we check the response and our display. We're going to here we are notifying or calling the service in the hub, because when the admin cancels the order, we need to update the client, right? When the client cancels the order, we need to update the admin. So we send a notification to the hub. Now you pass in just dummy ID. Okay, so in that, and we are going to invoke this other service. So this other state is going to get the current state or the current count of the orders cancelled by the admin. And now here this is also going to send a message to the client, and the client own can also going to be updated. Now when the client receives this, it's going to call also the same service in here as a client order, and I'm going to get a count as well. Okay, so aside from that, we check the state and now display successful order cancellation. In case you have any error, then do that. This is a way to check row selected. You know this already because we've done that in the product component. Now selected order, we're done for the row selection. It takes in the get order response, and now we're going to assign it in here. And in case you want to update this, you also want to assign the update in there as well. Okay, if I click on search order from the input component that we created, we want to trim it, and this, you know this already. We want to check from the serial number, the product name, the client's name, and the state. And now we want to set it in there to the permanent orders. Alright, so this is a reset modal display. Now you want to reset it because here, since you're using it dynamically, after you're using it, you have to clear the content and now wait for a new one. So that's why we are creating this button to reset that. That is the toolbar that we are using. And now in here, we getting this user identity. So here we don't need this anymore. All that we need here is to use this get the user and assign it to this user as a claim principal. So this is an open modal, close modal, and if I click on save, what I'm going to do, if I click on save order, you see here we are checking if the ID here is not equal to is greater than 0. We want to check, as you can see, update client order, right? So here this component is used, or admin order here is used to update the client order. So we want to update it. If the admin selects maybe the delivering state and also the date, the admin must save it. And now when save is clicked, that is the event that's going to get called. So that's the update client order. So we're going to use that, and after that we're going to save it to an activity. The response are going to come here. We're going to check and then display this. But here, after we've updated, we have to tell the user. How do we tell the user? We need to communicate to the hub, and now the communication that we are doing, send notification to the hub. And as soon as I send notification to the hub is going to broadcast it to all the clients connected. And now the client going to get a call from database again, and I get the current cancelled, which inclusive with the one that has been cancelled recently. Okay, Now this also get others to get the others from the query, as you can see from here. Then there's an other state. So we're creating a list of other states so we can be using it to check. So there's the other state that we have in here. If you want to update it, you need an other state, right? So we need to provide this as an other state. Then if other state selection changes, you want to assign the value to this update mode because you're going to update that. So you're going to assign it in there. And now when the page is disposing, you want to subscribe from this home generic state. Now home generic state here gives you the access to the state method. The state method is where you have the state button displayed on top as an admin header. So this one, admin header home header, which contains the buttons, and that's what we're using it as a state. Okay, so now that we are done with this, let's go and check out the client order. So create any component as client order, and it's the same. So I'm going to skip everything from here. You see we're doing the same thing. So you need to just copy that and now paste it down in there. It's the same thing that we are doing in here. Okay, so you are also using a SF grid, and now is the permanent order, the same thing from here. There's no change in this. Okay, the same. Now the same thing. So client 2 can cancel an order. So we have the same thing that client can also cancel order, and that is this. So we have the breadcrumbs, we have our toast, we have this SF grid, Netcode-Hub toast, we have the property set in here. These are text, these are item. Now we have these are variables that you're going to be using. So loading to show the generic, duration to set to show the toast, and now it's open to show the modal. We have the list created in here: temporal orders, product, permanent, and a category. So we can get the product, can get categories, can get these orders, and now make a filter on that. We also subscribe to the event. As soon as I update anything, we also want to subscribe, so we can call this method to get an update, and that's exactly what we are doing in here. Okay, then the next thing that we're doing here is, you can see when the parameter is set, we also want to check if the state here, the parameter coming as a state is not now. We want to call this general method. Okay, now this is a state button, so we are updating it. You know, if I click on outside the other component, let's say I'm in the home page and I click on processing, it will navigate to the page, to the other page and the processing. But in case I click on any other stage from the processing page, then I'm going to still maintain the URL. In this case, I want to edit it. Okay, so that's the reason why we are updating this URL in here to the state, that's the home state. Okay, now let's see, from the now we have get product and I get orders, load toolbar items, and that's the item that we're loading in here, get user identity, and that's exactly what we are having. Okay, then the modal is open, is closed, the same task we did, and that's exactly what we're doing here. If I click on save order, you click on create order command and then save activity, and so check the response and I display the response accordingly. Yes, and then that's the product selection change. If I click on product and I get the selection change, this is what I'm using. And from the selection change, I'm going to get the other model ID to the ID coming here. Then the selected other continue. You're going to create new instance of that. Okay. As after now, we're going to make a search of this, and I'm going to reset the model, set the values in here, and open model. So now when you open model, you're going to have access to this because other model contains the data already. Okay. So that's the reason why we're setting this other model.product ID to your ID. Okay. So to this grid, and now we want to just get it, because see we are getting this grid from this E here. Okay, and this is coming from the selection change. So when you have the selection change, we are going to add it to this, we're going to assign it to this, but you know this is grid, so that's why we need to convert it using this grid.pass to convert that. Okay, now this is a toolbar item click. If I click on any, this is what I'm going to do. All right, and that is all. So here, that is for create other command if I want to create it, and that's the reason why I do this, to create it. And now from the response, I want to communicate with the hub, and I'll show the success message and also the error respectively based on the output of that. Check if we selected, and that's the method to do that. We did this in the product, yes, and you know that. Okay, so that's a get selected other. So if I select the other, click on any row, this is going to be assigned to this selected other. And now from the search, we are looking through the state, product name, and the serial number to search it. And now from the temporary results, we're going to assign to the permanent to be displayed for the user to see. Okay, aside from that, we have this reset model, and that's going to reset all the model to the default state, setting all the booleans to false and setting all the strings to empty, so that you can reset them anytime that you need. When the page is posing, we have to unsubscribe to this event. So we see this client session, and now the admin looks the same, just that here there are some features that did not introduce in here. Okay, because admin needs to just see and now make a request, make a request. These are the 3 things that admin can do. You're going to see the dashboard can make a request and can also edit it. Alright, so with all being said and done, we're going to build a project and I'm going to run it again to see if it's working. Alright, so it is succeeded and it tells you that there's no issue with it. So let's try to run this project again and I'll check it out. Oh, okay, so let's try to log in with the default one, because you know this is the default account. As soon as the app runs, you're gonna have this default account created for you. So let's log in to the system, and now we are into the system. You see, we have these are the state buttons that we have on top here, and now we have the home buttons as well. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, that is also working. Then let's minimize this and also check it out. So okay, so we have this in a mobile view, and it's also working, right? Yes, exactly, it's working. Now if I click on processing, it has to navigate to the processing. As you can see, product, others, and now processing. So this is going to make the filtering. So let's wait while it navigates to the other page, and now make an other and get only the product or the others with the processing. So you can see you have no product added, so you can go in there and add product, and that is our breadcrumb. So these are home pages, our current or active page. Okay, so you can click on this to also navigate to the home page. Okay, then this is our user management, so you can click on this to add user. Now this place add user, so this is going to navigate us to the add user, and here we go. So you can see we're going to add user in there. You can also go in there and now click on manage to also manage this user as well. So currently we have only one user added, and these are the rows and these are the claims that we have in here. You can also check from the activity log to see if any activity has been performed. Currently you have no activity, so maybe you can check if there's no activity, we can display something in there. But for now I am not doing that. I leave that one up to you to modify that. Alright, so this work as already. Yeah, so I won't waste time to talk about this much because I've spoken about this already, and that's fine. Alright, so that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this for now, and I've covered all the sections, right? And you've seen all the code as well. So you can pause the video little by little and I'll start to type it if you want to. You can also grab the source code if you want, and you can have it from the video description down there. Alright, so that is it for this video. I'm going to catch up again. Till then, take care.